Warning, the following podcast contains adult language, themes, and situations. Also, the film we're about to talk about is going to be spoiled thoroughly. Listener discretion is advised. Enjoy this show.
You'd think if you were given Nicolas Cage, Tom Sizemore, Thomas Jane, and one of the most fascinating tales to come from easily the most memorable war in history, it would make for one hell of a movie and an absolute slam dunk at the box office. You'd think. Instead, we got a boring, pandering mess with some of the worst CGI since Sharknado. A critical and box office bomb that sunk the careers of everyone involved. With that in mind, let's all take some seasickness pills, clutch your dismembered body parts tight, and try not to kill yourself till the end as we do our best to survive U.S.S. Indianapolis, Men of Courage.
Okay, let's run.
I'm like a prickly pear.
What do you say we cut the chit-chat? A-hole! Porker! How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned, honey?
Have you ever been dragged to the sidewalk and beat until you
Pissed blood!
Welcome to One Cage at a Time, the show where we break down every single Nicolas Cage movie, one film at a time. Here are your hosts, Patrick, Vince, and Nigel.
As much as we wish we could just play Quint's speech from Jaws here, since it is a masterfully delivered synopsis of our story, it is far too powerful and captivating to accurately describe what happens in this movie. Instead, we'll keep it brief, unlike this unnecessarily long film, and say the USS Indianapolis is sent on a top-secret mission to deliver parts for the atomic bomb, but on their way home are sunk by a Japanese submarine and left to be feasted on by sharks for the next 5 days that seem to go on in real time as we all slowly die with them.
A very immersive film.
Yeah.
It is very immersive.
By the end of the movie, I was begging for death myself.
Just please give me a gun to shoot myself.
Please get a shark just come up out of the floor and take me.
Let's meet the stars of the film.
U.S.S. Indianapolis, Men of Spirits of Courage, New Orleans stars Nick's bringing out the dead co-star who really hops off the screen in this one, Tom Sizemore, the OG Punisher himself, Thomas Jane, a character actor with over 40 years in the biz who is probably still best known as Ajax from The Warriors, James Remar, the voice of the best version of Anakin Skywalker, Matt Lanter, a whole host of promising young actors whose careers were catastrophically destroyed by this film, and of course, the captain of this steaming pile of shit, get it? An Academy Award-winning actor who should be court-martialed for making us sit through this film, Nicholas Kim Coppola, better known as Nicolas Cage.
It's time to go over some of the finer details.
USS Indianapolis, Men of Courage. Very important that we add that. As we said,
Pretty sure that's the title of a Commandos PC game.
Men of Courage.
Yes, Commandos 2, Men of Courage. That's the name of it. You should just put that up when you're talking about it. I love those games. They're great. Check them out.
Like Nigel said, I think it's because there were already USS Indianapolis movies, and maybe you just needed to make something like put a little addendum on there of like, well, this isn't totally just the USS Indianapolis story. This is something else. This is something far worse. It was released on August 24th, 2016 in the Philippines. I'm guessing because that's where they shot some of it. Not all of it. Most of it was shot in Alabama. Which explains a lot.
No.
But yeah, I guess they did that because that was where like the ship took off from, like landed and dropped the atomic bomb.
Yeah.
And then left from. So that was like their last known location was the Philippines.
The Philippines, yeah.
Probably got a super cheap film out there too.
Yeah.
I would have figured they filmed it at like Guam or something on like a military base and got that.
I don't think
Sweet-
any of it
sweet
was actually
military
filmed
write-off.
in the Philippines. I think it was all filmed around Alabama.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But it was like Nick Cage needed a vacation, and he was like, I really wanted to visit the Philippines. So
I heard they have a great culture.
we got
Try
lady
some
boys
blue.
over there. It's really cheap for a lady boy over there. It was released in the U.S. though on October 14th, 2016. This was their wide release. So 2 months later.
Why so soon?
I'm guessing it didn't test well. That would be my guess, based
yeah.
on watching the movie. I'm guessing it just people were like, "This
just
sucks."
Dumped it in October, which I don't think is a very big box office month for stuff.
I think they said they wanted to release around Veterans Day, but this is like a month before Veterans Day.
Yeah.
I don't know. Had a budget of $40 million. 2016,
Jeez.
$40 million, made $1,663,785.
You know, if Cage didn't have these huge blockbusters in the 90s, his track record would not be so great. Like, he would be batting in the negative at this point. Holy shit.
$38 million loss. Not counting marketing, all that kind of stuff. Holy shit.
Which is crazy because
Wow.
I feel like these types of movies always typically do pretty well. So
Yeah.
that just speaks to how terrible this fucking film is.
Yeah, word of mouth got out quick.
Yeah.
This was directed by Mario Van Peebles.
Who?
Solo himself. Remember Mario Van? He was in like every other random like movie that was like direct to video in the 80s and 90s. He was just like, that was his thing. He was just
Really?
just
Okay. Yeah. I had to look
the
up a
kinda,
picture
like-
of him. And like,
yeah.
I get it. It's like I knew his name. I just didn't remember.
he was the
Who he is.
proto Cage back in the 80s and 90s. He was just doing them for the paycheck, getting out.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He has also directed pretty much his entire career, mostly TV work. He worked on Johnny Depp's 21 Jump Street back in the day, Sons of Anarchy, Lost, NCIS, but is also responsible for one of my favorite movies and potentially the only redeeming credit on his IMDb, New Jack City. He directed that and was a co-star. He was like one of the detectives with, or he was a captain, I forget, but he was one of the cops in that movie. Solo, go watch Solo. It's great. Written by Cam Cannon and Richard Rayonda del Castro, who are both known more for producing than writing, which
don't
explains
say.
a
Wow.
lot. They were like a co-producing team that put this movie together.
Where they're just like, well, you know, it's based on a true story. How hard can it be?
They said they spent 5 years working on this script,
Holy crap.
and it went through several different iterations.
I
Damn.
feel at one point they got really high and watched Pearl Harbor and like, that. Let's do that.
Let's
Titanic.
do this. Yes.
And then Titanic,
Let's make
yeah.
up half of the movie. It's guy's French, Del Castro. Let's make up half of the movie. And just, we'll put a bunch of unnecessary stories in there about an author and a man who falls in love with a cuck baby.
It's very France. It's a very
so
France
good.
love story.
God, imagine what what an actual author or writer could have churned out in less than 5 years with this story.
I mean, I said it in the opening. It's just like, this is one of the most fascinating stories ever to come out of World War II, which is a insanely fascinating war. And somehow you pumped out this. This is
Yeah.
what we got.
It is still the biggest naval disaster in United States history.
Yeah.
In terms of, I think, loss of life.
Loss
right?
of life, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was,
In World War II, and that's saying
people.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there were a lot of casualties in the Pacific.
Yeah.
They were both producers on this film, and they also were producers on Cage's film Rage. So we'll get to talk about these guys again. And
Did they write that one?
I don't think so, but maybe. And Del Castro solo, not Mario Van Peebles solo, but he solo produced Vengeance: A Love Story right after this. So they did Rage, then they did USS Indianapolis, then they did Vengeance: A Love Story, all within like 3 years of each other, and then they never worked together again.
I wonder why.
Must have been like a 3-picture deal or something with Cage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shot by, I don't know how to say this, Andrzej? Andrzej. Andrzej. It's pretty
Polish?
we'll just call him Andrzej Sekula, who is a Polish director who is best known for shooting Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction.
Wow. I feel bad for this guy because this movie, one of the main issues I had is it was butchered. You could tell it was butchered in the editing process, and it appears as if it was shot poorly because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel bad for him that he has to have his name associated to this film because he clearly has talent.
Yeah. I guess the shooting was great. It was just the CGI, the cut.
The cutting
Everything
just
they did in the
ruined
edit.
shots for me, dude. Just like
Yeah,
how,
totally.
I mean, they'd stop in the middle of a fucking scene and move on to the next. And like, we weren't done with what was happening.
It just ends.
It was so jarring. And then like towards the end of the movie, especially, it's like cut. Like, and you're in the middle of one story, cut to back to this other story, then cut. I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, just play out a scene for the love of God. Tell one story at a
from
time.
Christopher Nolan, you know?
Yeah.
Oh my God. It was like
So just to be
Inception.
sure, because I feel like we need to respect him a little bit. It should be. It is pronounced more like Andre. It's like the Polish version of. It's like Andre, like with a weird little buzz onto it. But
Andrzej.
probably just say
That makes
Andre
sense.
and call it good.
Andrzej.
Well, it's so the J is a Y sound. So
Andre.
yeah,
right.
Andre. There.
know
Sorry,
how
we
those
tried
extra
to
letters
pay a
are
little
there.
bit of respect to Mr. I don't remember what his last name was.
Sekula.
Sakula.
I don't even know if that's how you say that either. I am
Right.
terrible with foreign languages, as you have seen throughout the course of this show. Terrible.
Not as terrible as Vince with English.
Hey, that's a foreign language for me.
Even though you were born and raised here.
Yeah, still boring.
He also shot a portion of one of my favorite, kind of forgotten gems, 4 Rooms. You guys ever seen that? It's
That sounds really
4
familiar.
different directors. It's Tarantino, Rodriguez. I can't remember. It's 4 different directors, and they tell 4 different stories in this hotel. Stars Tim Roth throughout the whole thing as like a bellhop who gets involved with all of these different random things that are
yeah.
going on. Tarantino directs this amazing section of the film where it's about like taking a bet of Bruce Willis cutting his finger off with a meat cleaver and stuff. It's great. It's definitely worth a watch. It's really funny. Really good movie. He also shot Hackers and American Psycho before committing career suicide by agreeing to shoot this film. He pretty much didn't work after this. So
Yeah, it sucks.
edited by Howard Smith, who is also a heavy hitter. He edited The Abyss back in the day. Got an Oscar nomination for that. Yeah, seriously.
What? Go from that to this? What the
I
hell?
know. We'll wait for the rest of them. So he also edited Point Break, Glengarry Glen Ross, Strange Days, Dante's Peak, then had a slight drop off and did Blade Trinity, Snakes on a Plane, and Slumber Party Slaughter.
Dude, that's my favorite movie. Yeah, I feel like we talked about this dude before.
We have. Yes, he's worked with Cage.
He's worked with Cage a few times, yeah. And it always throws us through a loop because I think you mentioned in the past that he did this film.
Maybe he just reached a point where he's like, I don't give a shit anymore.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it seems like there's a direct divide in his career with like great films and not great films. So.
Yeah, because it doesn't really seem like he's ever been attached to just one director or a couple directors. He's just kind of an editor
he's
for
one
hire.
of those free agents, yeah. Music was by Laurent Iquem.
There's music in this?
Yeah, it's overpowering in every freaking scene.
I couldn't tell. It was so subtle.
It just takes over. Dude, I was watching unfortunately, I watched the behind the scenes, which is 33 minutes long.
Oh my God.
Oh God, ow.
I watched the behind the scenes. And the music, you couldn't even hear the fucking dialogue of the people talking about the movie because the music was so goddamn loud. It's like, what the fuck, dude?
Music in behind
the scenes, yeah. Has 42 credits on his IMDb, and this is the only thing I recognize besides Rage. So we'll also be able to talk about him on that. This is definitely a getting the band back together production from the Rage crew that failed in all aspects on that film as well, because that was a huge box office bomb.
Yeah.
It's always best to hire a group of people who made a poorly received box office bomb flop.
Give them $40 million and
give them $40 million.
Tell them to go at it again.
I didn't even know that Rage had a theatrical release. I always assumed it was straight to DVD.
I did too.
So that
until I was doing research on this. So we'll see. See how that movie is. I feel like we should talk about that film soonish because it's come up a lot. There's so many of those movies in that like period where I'm just like, I have no idea what any of those movies are. That's one of the biggest reasons that I wanted to do this show in the first place was like, I really want an excuse to go watch these terrible 50 movies that Nick Cage put out between 2010 and 2020.
There's so many of them too.
There's so fucking many of them too. All right. Ratings. This got a 17%, which seems high. 3.4 out of 10, but only 12 reviews. That seems weird because it came out in 2016.
Yeah, and it's a war movie. Well, ish. Like, yeah, that's weird.
Okay, we apologize. We totally forgot to start recording the screens.
You were denied our lovely faces.
Yeah, you missed 10 minutes of our faces, but we're back. Here we are.
I'm sorry you have to look at us.
Sorry. I'm so sorry. Anyways, audience score on this was a 30%, which feels accurate. Yeah, 30%.
Yeah.
Metacritic score was the same. Which rarely ever happens where Metacritic and the audience are aligned. But even Metacritic was like, fuck this movie. Mm-hmm. IMDb is a 5.3 out of 10. It just shows you how stupid the audience is.
Yeah. Stick this on video on History Channel one afternoon.
This is really good.
Yeah.
They're pretty accurate.
I thought Ancient Aliens was on right now, but I guess it's USS Indianapolis. Look, that shark looks real. They actually did have animatronics for the sharks in this, and
I noticed
most
it in
of
a couple
the
shots.
Underwater shots are an animatronic shark, which actually looks really good.
Yeah, the underwater shots
unlike
look good.
anything above the surface.
That's surprising.
And of course, did not get a cinema score. I don't have any of the movies we've done this season gotten a cinema score. I feel like nothing has at this point.
I don't remember. Let's see. What have we
Peggy
covered?
Sue was way too early for that.
Well, I think Peggy Sue did get a cinema score, if I remember right.
Did
but
it?
It was like they went back and retroactively added
Oh,
it.
that doesn't count. That's
Yeah, it
cheating.
doesn't.
Yeah.
Really.
I mean, I don't think Red Rock West did.
Yeah,
Definitely
that
Sunny didn't.
That would have been too early as well.
Yeah.
Sunny definitely didn't.
Yeah. Oh, man, I can't wait for Never on Tuesday, next episode.
For the 10 seconds he's in it.
How about a Coppola quick facts?
Couple of quick facts here. I'll keep it kind of brief because we have a bunch throughout the actual film. Surprisingly, But most of them are not associated with like the making of the film. They're more about like, this is what they got wrong in this scene. This is what they got wrong in this scene.
As it should be. I feel like you should be accurate when you're telling the story.
Yeah, you probably should, but whatever. Scenes set on the USS Indianapolis were actually filmed aboard the USS Alabama, which is docked in Mobile Bay in Mobile, Alabama. The same battleship was actually used in the film Under Siege. Oh, remember that film?
Nice.
The only good Steven Seagal movie.
Is it good though?
It was better than everything else.
Yes, okay, touche.
The USS Indianapolis is a Portland-class heavy cruiser. It's portrayed in the film by the USS Alabama, which is a South Dakota-class battleship, and they look nothing alike. Nothing whatsoever.
Jack shit about naval ships, but it did throw me off when they were showing shots of the ship. I was like, I feel like that's not accurate to what the actual ship was.
Yeah,
it's
like the scene with the gold things in the guns,
the plugs in the plug.
Yeah. Never ever do that during wartime.
Yeah,
they only do that when they're docked.
You're not ready to fire. You're sitting duck at that point. Yeah, that part threw me off. And then obviously you could tell that the ship has had modern upgrades because it felt new versus what the ships built in the 40s would have.
There are a lot of period problems with this film.
It really,
but I didn't go into them because it was just like, it's already too fucking long. We're already talking about this movie. We're way goddamn too long.
Yeah.
But yeah, just know that like they didn't really care while they were making the film whether or not it looked right or was even like the truth, that kind of stuff. No attempt is made to make the Alabama look anything like the Indianapolis, which is a completely different type of ship, which is hilarious to me. I looked it up, and the actual Indianapolis was 2 football fields long. I think it's like 211 yards long or something like that. Very big ship, and I don't think that this ship is even close to that. I think it's quite a bit smaller. But
yeah, should have James Cameron make this movie. He would have built a scale model of a scale replica 1-to-1 of the Indianapolis and sunk it.
Most of the sharks attacking the survivors are shown to be great white sharks. But in reality, the majority of these species were oceanic white tips, oceanic black tips, and reef sharks. Despite these species being smaller, they are highly aggressive, extremely fast, and are usually the first to arrive after an accident. I have to assume that they put great whites in just because of Jaws.
Yeah.
Like, that's how fucking lazy the production was on this.
The guy in Jaws talked about sharks, so we got to use a shark from Jaws.
Remember that scene?
Yeah. I added that as a quick fact, but I'll take it out from mine because I was basically, it was pissing me off. Like, nowhere in the entire movie do you see a oceanic white tip.
Yeah.
And that's the one that experts all say were the ones that would have eaten because they live out in the deep ocean. They eat anything that shows up. So they're like some of the most dangerous sharks you'll ever see or encounter because they're just basically living in a desert. So they got to eat what they can.
Yep.
In the behind the scenes, they did definitely like really talked about that scene from Jaws, which is amazing. It's an amazing scene. Captivating. Nothing's happening in that. It's just Robert Shaw telling the story. Nothing else is happening in that. And it's so much more
and it was his first take.
Anything.
That was his first take of doing that. Yep. Doing that read.
Shit. Wow. I wish Robert Shaw would have been in more things. Like, I feel like he was a very underutilized, amazing actor. But maybe he was a tyrant off the screen or something. I don't know.
I think there were stories about him like being drunk for most of the filming of that, or at least that scene or other scene. This kind of hard to work with, and had to apologize to Spielberg. So yeah, maybe he was just hard to work with and didn't get a lot of work because of it.
Yeah,
just that scene alone should have gotten him an Oscar. I mean, it was incredible. If Alec Baldwin could win an Oscar for his one scene in Glengarry Glen Ross, then Robert Shaw should have won an Oscar for that. 1,196 crewmen were stranded, 879 of whom died in the water from injuries related to the torpedo attack, from sharks, or from exposure. That is a lot of people to die slowly and terribly. It's insane.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that'll happen when you just let them float around the water for 5 days.
Yeah,
without sending any help.
Yeah, it was a major blunder from the Navy and the military in general, as we'll see as we talk about all of the different distress calls that were called in that were completely ignored.
Yeah.
There were 317 survivors. I just want to just quickly say I want to warn you all that we are going to absolutely eviscerate this film because it is awful. But please know that we don't mean any disrespect to the men who lost their lives on that ship. Those men are absolute legends who died horribly. We only wish that the filmmakers had taken their place.
Yeah. I feel like the film was disrespectful to the family. We're being disrespectful to the people that thought this was okay to put out to the public, because it just shits on those poor guys. I mean, it absolutely misses the mark on that tragic event. And we're going to tear this shit apart.
Yeah, what he said. That's perfect. When the wreckage of the USS Indianapolis was discovered, it was actually discovered after this film came out in August of 2017, which was 72 years after it sank. And there were still 19 crew members alive at the time. A lot of those men were like 90 years old, which is crazy to go through something like this and still be around at 90, you know. This is some badass dudes.
Yeah, that's nuts. Holy crap.
Yeah. Within 3 weeks of finding the USS Indianapolis, the Japanese submarine that sank the Indianapolis was also found by a search team.
Oh, wow.
It had been scuttled in the last days of World War II. I don't know if it was like right next to Indianapolis. They're like,
probably not.
Yeah, that was one of our best victories right there, motherfucker. Let's scuttle this thing right here. Drop it on their heads. I don't know what the thought process was. I don't know if they were found in completely different places or what. But that's
probably. I think it was
crazy
because they made Japan demilitarized, so they probably just scuttled a bunch of their stuff in whatever harbors they were in.
Yeah, and I would imagine there would have been a naval base somewhere on an island nearby.
I think Tinian is the closest to where they were sunk, because I think they took off that night from Tinian and then were sunk in the middle of the night.
In the middle of the night, yeah.
Yeah. So they weren't that far away. That's why the planes were able to come and check them out, because the Pacific is humongous.
Yeah.
So finding them would be like a needle in a haystack. Nicolas Cage and Thomas Jane were both married to Patricia Arquette.
Oh, do you think they talked about that?
I
don't think
wonder.
they ever interacted in this film.
Yeah, they did.
Did they?
In the water, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. I guess you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
For landing. That scene?
And marrying my ex-wife.
He took her off my hands. Thank you. Cage and Arquette were married from 1995 to 2001, while Jane and Arquette were married from 2006 to 2011. I have to assume it was like, God damn, we both escaped, man.
Yeah.
That chick seems crazy. I mean, so do they, though. So
Yeah.
She wasn't acting in that scene in Bringing Out the Dead. That was genuine response from her.
She asked me if I wanted to fuck her because everybody else has.
And I said, yeah, sure. Why not?
Sure, why not? Let's get married. You're a real smooth talker. And then the final quick fact, Nicolas Cage's handprints have been enshrined in a reef object placed just off Perdido Pass near Orange Beach, Alabama. The site is called Poseidon's Playground and is a popular dive location. I think it happened during this film. Because they were like, they were out there. They filmed all of the water scenes first.
Yeah.
So that they would bond together. And, with varying results, I guess. But like, because they were out in the water, they were just like, hey, Put your handprints in here. I don't know.
I thought you were going to say that they left it at the wreckage of the Indianapolis, and I was going to get
No.
pissed off.
I thought so too. I thought that's weird.
This seems disrespectful, but sure. Okay. Nicolas Cage had nothing to do with this shit.
Let's break this bitch down. Act 1. Let's set some stuff up.
Our film begins on March 31st, 1945 in Okinawa, Japan, with a squadron of clip art-looking Japanese Zeros trying to make mincemeat out of the USS Indianapolis, or U.S.S. Alabama, or whatever. Our hero, Nicolas Cage, or the actual hero he's playing, Captain Charles McVeigh, gives orders to fire on the Zeros, and one crashes into the bow of the ship as some of those eagles from Birdemic hover overhead.
It's the same sound effect, too. They have the dive bomb from the same free audio pack. Royalty-free sound effects.
Oh, shit.
We cut to a film room filled with Philip Morris poster children smoking like it's going out of style while watching film from the attack on Pearl Harbor, which happened 4 years prior to this. They're like talking about how like, oh, the Japanese made us look like fools, and Pearl Harbor is this redneck general, congressman,
general,
CIA guy,
generic G-man.
It would have been OSS at that time.
Some general says the American people want the war to end since it's getting a bit old, and some guy says, Jesus, are you talking about the atomic bomb? Even though he probably would have had no idea that the bomb exists, since that was a highly classified project that they didn't know would even work until days before it was dropped. We all saw
Oppenheimer.
So there's that. The general says it would send a message loud and clear if they drop it on Hiroshima, even though that's not where they originally planned to drop the bomb. You know what? Maybe it's best to just not point out historical inaccuracies in this film, since we're 20 seconds into it and the first lines of dialogue already, it's pretty clear that they fact-checked this thing like a boomer posting anti-vaccine posts on Facebook. It was Hiroshima, Kokura, and Nagasaki were all bantied about as potential targets, but they didn't know. They didn't specifically choose Hiroshima immediately. They just kind of threw around a couple different names, all strategic military targets.
Yeah,
which they never bombed Tokyo because, I mean, that would have been like such a slap in the face to the whole world. I feel like this already was, but
this was the warm-up fire. Like,
yeah.
These are the warning shots.
You don't need to fire it directly at Tokyo when you could do this and then say, but we could drop it on Tokyo.
We definitely could. They say they'd never be able to fly the bomb to Japan, so the general says, we'll motorboat the son bitch.
I don't think you want to motorboat an atomic bomb.
Using one unprotected ship delivering the bomb to the Philippines, and then they could fly it over from there. That 1 minute scene is good enough to kick off the greatest use of force in world history. So after some nondescript politician or something says, who do you have in mind? We cut to the greatest actor of his generation writing a letter to his wife while some sailor watches from the doorway for some reason.
Yeah, that was super weird.
It's one of my Coppola questions of like, why the fuck is this guy listening to him read aloud a letter he is writing? I thought he was dictating it, but no. He's like, hands him the letter afterwards, like, my dear Louise. Like, why are you reading it out loud?
Captain, my captain, you're so romantic.
I just like to listen to him talk.
I mean, to be fair, if he was my captain, I'd be standing outside his door every night.
Like Data in Star Trek. Fuck are you doing outside of my quarters again?
You soulless freak.
You soulless corpse monster.
Walking corpse.
Fucking walking corpse with that white skin of his. Into the camera, McVeigh says what separates the U.S. from the Japanese is that U.S. soldiers want to do their duty so they can go home, and the Japanese are being forced unwillingly to commit suicide, which isn't exactly true, but whatever. Then the scene jump cuts a few times before McVeigh campily says, "In a few days, it's my birthday. My best gift would be just to see you again, my dear Louise." It's really fucking weird. Really fucking weird. Already, the movie is just like, what is going on? Mm-hmm. Like, I can see what they were trying to do. They were trying to create some sort of emotional connection with him, but it was really strange.
Yeah. It's like that with any dramatic moment in the movie.
Yes.
Or basically any character. Just trying to create an emotional connection. Like, fucking robot wrote it. Yep.
ChatGPT.
They really had to try hard and spent 5 years to come up with a compelling human side of the biggest disaster in naval history, I guess.
All the characters are kind of soulless. There's no real humanity to the characters, which I felt was so odd and disrespectful.
Robert Shaw putting more humanity into a 5-minute monologue in a movie 30 years ago than this entire 2-hour film had.
Yeah.
We cut to Napa Valley in April of 1945, where a couple of seamen drive to a Louisiana plantation that obviously isn't in California, where they meet some rich guy with a southern accent.
It's like I
wondered about that. Do they have plantation houses in Napa Valley?
No, they do not. They don't have fucking, what's that hanging moss
weeping
from
willow or whatever?
The weeping willow tree or
hanging off of live oaks.
Moss,
yeah.
The one time you could have just said it was in New Orleans in a Nicolas Cage movie to make
they had
sense.
to be accurate about this part, apparently.
Kind of accurate.
Fucking film it in Mississippi and call it California. One guy, Mike, has a super forced New York accent that pretty much disappears after this scene and is obnoxious as all hell from the jump, while his buddy Bama is escorted to a room full of Illuminati members or something. Quick fact, this is amazing. Doesn't help the performance in any way whatsoever, but Matt Lanter, who plays Bama, his grandfather was a survivor of the USS Indianapolis.
No way.
Wow.
Only 317 people survived that. And somehow his grandchild was in the movie later on. And they said they didn't know while they were putting it together that he was a survivor. Wow. He actually wears his grandfather's dog tags throughout the entire movie.
Wow.
This is fucking crazy.
Cool. Yeah, that's cool, but also sad because it's fucking movie.
Yeah. His dad was like, it was crap.
Do you think it was
30% on Metacritic? It's fucking terrible.
Grandpa's one of the 17 critics that reviewed it, 12 critics that reviewed it. I was there. This was shit.
This is garbage. Who the hell are half these people? My friends weren't good enough for the fucking story? That's my biggest thing about this whole movie is like the actual story wasn't interesting enough.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? Why did you have to add all these fake people into the movie?
I know, yeah.
I think we'll talk about right with the Band of Brothers style ending, but Band of Brothers was all a bunch of actual people. So this was like they had like 4 guys that
tell
were
their stories.
Yeah. This was like they had 3 or 4 guys that were real characters and then a bunch of nobodies that they made up.
Just a bunch of like stand-ins, I guess. Like they had to like combine a bunch of stories together or something. Which works sometimes, but not when you're telling a period piece that's supposed to be based on a true story. Like,
right.
The Illuminati members all tell them how much that they're making because of the war, which tells you everything you need to know about why we're always at war. And they asked this Navy private whether the war is about to end since he'd have any fucking clue. They go,
Don't they ask him about the bomb?
Are they dropping the bomb?
Yeah.
Right.
Fuck is he supposed to know?
I don't know.
He's got money and steel. That's why.
Yeah. He's like, I just clean the shitters. I don't know what you think they tell me.
It's like asking a associate at Walmart, like
what the Black Friday deals are about to be.
What are the Waltons going to do
What's the next
this
quarter
year?
report's going to be like?
I don't know, man.
I don't know, but thank you for shopping at Walmart.
I'm just trying not to kill myself, okay? Upstairs, we see a bunch of hot girls dancing with that Mike douche, and Bama watches as his crush gets all moist for Mike from New York for what feels like 15 fucking minutes. It just goes on and on.
They had to be like Pearl Harbor, right?
It's the 40s.
We get it. Pearl Harbor. It's the 40s. That's what I was like. Oh, okay, they're trying to do a Pearl Harbor thing.
Yep.
I vaguely remember a love triangle in Pearl Harbor, right?
Why? Yeah. Why would you take inspiration from that film?
I don't know. I mean, I think it was ahead of its time.
We cut to the Indianapolis docked in San Francisco a few months later, where we see Tom Sizemore's character McHorder yelling over the bow at his men who are busily fixing the damage caused by the Zero in the first scene. I'm guessing McHorder was like a real person. When they use like a real specific name, it feels like. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm gonna look it up while you keep reading, because I feel like if he is, that's bad and shitty.
Captain McVeigh congratulates McHorder on having a baby boy, which is Sizemore was like 55 in this movie.
Yeah.
It can happen.
Consent laws were pretty lax back in the 40s, so I guess it's accurate.
God damn, bro.
Then an instantly unlikable dickwad named Lieutenant Standish breaks up the fun by saying his father, Admiral something Standish, sends his regards. Like, we get it that this guy is supposed to be unlikable, but they really beat us over the head with his douchiness in ways we haven't seen since Stolen. It is really bad. It is. At least they didn't every give him that fucking hair. Moment of his like portrayal.
Yeah,
he is just fucking unlikable as hell. Suddenly, we see a mysterious crate being lowered to the deck, and McVeigh is pulled into a meeting with a 2-star admiral. I don't know. He had 2 stars on his thing, and I don't think they do stars for admirals, but I don't know. I don't know for sure.
Know.
I'm guessing.
I don't know. I can't remember if they do or don't.
I'm hoping that they did more research on ranks than they did in Grand Isle.
I doubt it.
What makes you think that?
Fucked up the accuracy in the first 10 minutes. So
they really just didn't give a shit.
Based on what I'm seeing, I don't think McWhorter was a real person.
Okay,
so we can talk all the shit we want about him.
Yeah. Just make up the whole fucking cast of a real fucking thing that happened. Mm-hmm. What the hell? Anyways, the admiral tells him that President Truman has enlisted McVeigh to complete a top secret mission while some guy welds a little metal box to the floor. Which I'm guessing the crate is the bomb and the metal box is the plutonium, right? So it's like the 2 parts that go together.
The metal box is the demon core. Just don't rock the ship too much.
It's the allspark.
The fucking allspark.
They show that same shot of that fucking welded thing and the crate being lowered like 7 times. In the
I know. I guess, it's supposed to be the plutonium, or plutonium.
I'm guessing they're welding it with like lead or something around it. Oh,
that's healthy. Just breathe it in, boys.
Well, they were probably eating asbestos. The mess hall.
Yeah,
the ship was made of asbestos. It floats the best.
All their life jackets are all asbestos. It's fireproof. I mean, they probably were. It probably was.
It probably was, yeah. If it was the allspark, it would make the ship come alive. That would have been cool.
Into a transformer.
Turns into a big transformer. That would have been more respectful than what they made.
Yeah, it would have actually. It takes down the Japanese sub.
Yeah, it's like it cuts away from the like everybody dying in the ocean to show what really could have happened, and like goes back.
As it's sinking, it like turns into a transformer and goes and destroys the sub.
The general tells them they are to take 2 highly classified pieces of hardware to the island of Tinian without an escort at top speed, and that they're to leave the next day. This scene is like really weirdly shot with like the general looking directly into the camera, and like Cage is shot from like up above and to the side for some reason. The guy who filmed Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction filmed this.
Yeah, there were these weird angles to this shot.
Very strange.
There are a lot of weird angles to this entire fucking movie.
Was it like just to make us uncomfortable?
That's what I figured, like they say with Dutch angles, is to disorient you. And that's like, why? You're just setting up the exposition of the plot.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It is a major thing that happened. Like,
yeah, I mean, maybe it's just to get his unease because, I'm giving, he's been given this top secret mission with no escort, and he's basically just on his own, and he's in a ship that's designed to have destroyer escorts because it can't handle single combat by itself. So
yeah,
I'm sure he's just like, what the fuck?
Yards long. It doesn't turn on a dime.
Right. It's basically a sitting duck for torpedoes and shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that crashes.
It's just him being like, "What the hell?" Like he's responsible for 1,000 people, and they're basically just sending him out to die.
Yeah. McVeigh asks if this has something to do with the Manhattan Project, and he's given a letter. Did everybody know about the Manhattan Project?
It was a worst kept secret.
Seriously.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I honestly thought that very, very few people knew about it.
Everybody seems to know about it in this movie.
Right? And they built it in the middle of the desert,
people that
nobody would know.
Yeah, they were disappearing people that were threatening to talk about it.
Yeah. Anyways,
I feel like if he had said this is to do with the Manhattan Project, they'd be like, the what now? And you are relieved of your command. And you need to come with us right now.
Yeah.
Better write your will, by the way. Yeah, I don't know, because he says at the end of the movie that he had a pretty good idea of what they were carrying to the Japanese sub commander. But all of that shit was made up, so I don't know.
Right.
He actually said those things, and he actually had an idea of what was happening. Anyways, so he asks if it's a part of the Manhattan Project, and he's given a letter that he's not to read until the next day. He probably read it the second they walked out, like in Weatherman, where it's BJ's lacked enthusiasm. Surprised the other guy at the table didn't say execute with extreme prejudice. It's just so he's just kind of a nondescript high up military guy. The other person in the room who doesn't speak really, but I feel like it's exactly like that scene in Apocalypse Now.
Oh God, could we watch that instead?
I wish.
Yeah, we need a Coppola palate cleanser.
Yeah.
We should do an episode where it's just has nothing to do with anything. It's just us getting back.
Watching a good movie.
Let's watch something good for a change. Fuck.
So today, instead of watching a Cage movie, we want to cleanse our palate. We're going to watch The Fast and the Furious.
That is not a palate cleanser. They wish McVeigh good luck, and we cut to a group of black sailors talking about some cracker that's been messing with one of them. It's cool. I can say cracker because, everyone else has to say cracker. I can't say cracker.
Oh, Jesus.
We always got to shoehorn in some racial message into these period pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Which is it's important, sure, but this movie is about them delivering the atomic bomb and then getting eaten by sharks.
Yeah.
Do we need a love triangle, a racist parable, a guy, whatever McWhorter's doing with his foot?
Yeah.
All of these different stories, it's mandatory. The fucking author guy who's writing the shittiest book ever written. And everybody's oh, this is the best thing I've ever heard. And then she was wearing it was fucking Dennis's love, his journal where he talks about all the women he's had sex with in Always Sunny. I don't know.
Oh god, that was like the dumbest storyline, and that's saying something for these extra characters that they threw in.
I was like, surely this is the guy who wrote the book about this. No, he doesn't even fucking exist. Not even a real person.
Not a real person. Literally changes midstream to just writing erotic fan fiction about the ship.
And then they like fake kill him off screen.
Yeah.
I didn't even understand. Oh, yeah, anyways.
Yeah, I was so confused about things like that in this.
Yeah.
Who's this character? Who is that? What happened? I feel like an old guy watching. Huh? Who's that? What's going on? Who's this character?
We see the two random sailors we met earlier at the plantation home in California, where we find out the New York guy Mike is planning to propose to that girl that he met 3 months ago. And we're supposed to give a shit for fuck knows what's sake, like why we would care about these characters. Just get to the fucking story of the USS Indianapolis. Never mind. Anyways, Bama tries to talk him out of proposing, and Mike says, "You miss 100% of the shots you don't take," which is a Wayne Gretzky quote that he wouldn't say for 35 fucking years. God damn it, I hate this movie already.
Maybe closer to like 50 years.
I think so.
When did Gretzky
must
say
have said it somewhere in the 80s
or 90s, 80s, so
40 years later.
40 years later, yeah.
We cut to a dance hall / strip club / bar / poet's den or something where some guy...
I don't think it's supposed to be the same place, but the way they edited it is it looks like it's like the basement of the country club that they were just in.
Yeah.
And they're doing a burlesque show.
It's also like feels very New Orleans, but it's in the middle of San Francisco.
Yes.
Some like dude pukes, and then Mario Van Peebles' son.
Wait, what?
Yep. The author guy is Mario Van Peebles' son, whose name is Mandela, by the way. Well, I mean, we're doing a whole show about a Nepo baby, so. Anyways, he writes, quote, "How's a young fella gonna know how much he can drink unless he knows how much he can't?" With a smirk on his face like he just said the most profound shit ever. Fuck you, dog.
Is this movie over yet?
Fucking shit, dude. 12 minutes into the film, we randomly cut to voiceover of that wordsmith telling us they're in San Francisco and the streets are alive with sailors. So not much has changed, really. San Francisco.
Yeah, just different kinds of semen all over the streets in San Francisco.
We see Mike upset walking away from a place called El Castro, being chased by the girl he tried to propose to, but her dad said no. Okay, maybe El Castro has changed just a little.
I was going to say, isn't that the gay district in San Francisco?
Yes. 100%, yes. Clara tells Mike her dad just wants her to know someone longer than like 3 months before he'll grant his blessing, but Mike thinks it's because he's poor. Guessing he'd also like his daughter to not marry a hothead dumb shit, but, you know, what do I know? You're going to marry that fucking moron?
He can dance, Dada.
He dances real good. I never had my pussy eaten before, and it was Jesus. Great. He's got that accent. Makes his tongue do all sorts of crazy things.
Sort of. It's got the
I'm
accent.
from a plantation.
I'm from a plantation.
Napa Valley plantation.
Napa Valley plantation.
That guy who was doing voiceover a second ago talks out loud as he writes what's going on in the fucking alleyway between Clara and Mike, and Bama's like standing nearby, like he's writing about a painting or something.
It's just like now we're watching West Side Story.
Yeah. Then we cut to a race war in an alleyway nearby between that guy in the movie theater and some cornhusk-looking guy.
Did we even talk about the movie theater yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the cracker thing. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, right.
Mike and Bama decide they need to join in the fight for some reason, even though there seem to be more pressing things going on with them fucking getting engaged and whatever. But, you know, the black guy and the cracker fight for a minute or 8, Can't really tell since my eyes were already glazing over at this point. While some dude in glasses starts making bets on who will win. This guy being a gamble-holic seems to be vitally important to the story because we show him gambling at least 4 times.
It's his character. That's all he does.
That's all he does, yeah. I'm a special
Surprised he wasn't like
kind.
taking bets on who's getting eaten by a shark next, you know?
I should have.
I took down the colored guy over there. His words, not mine.
It was a time. It was a time. Alabama.
Time back then. Alabama.
Mike starts punching a dude for no reason, obviously a sign of Claire's future, before dropping the engagement ring, which is immediately stolen by that guy with the glasses, the gamble guy. Gamble guy. Some MPs show up and break up the fight, and some random dude says they're shipping out. Things just happen in this movie. It's just
That's just life, man. Things just happen in life, man.
Claire's dad pulls up and she tells Mike whatever happens between them is up to them and not her father's choice. He tries to give her the ring but can't find it. Yada, yada, yada. They never see each other again. Fucking cares. Jesus Christ. She was saved a lifetime of unprompted rage outbursts and accidentally falling down the stairs is what I surmise. We cut to the deck of the Indianapolis the next day where we see Cage doing that same military accent that he used in Dying of the Light. That's like his go-to. You need me. You are worthless. He tells the entire crew in full regalia that they are worthless without him, and without them, he is worthless. So they need to work together. Somehow they can all hear them. All hear what he's saying. 2 football fields long.
Well, clearly they're all standing right in front of him.
It's true.
Yeah.
He's facing away from them for most of it.
Yeah. Yeah, he's looking the opposite way.
He's looking at the camera.
Yeah. We see the ship, or at least a crappy CGI rendering of it, sail out of San Francisco, and again we cut to voiceover, this time from McVeigh, who sleepily explains that their ship is basically a sitting duck for the enemy submarines when they don't have an escort, and none of the crew have any idea of the danger that they're in, because they can't fire below. They don't have anything. They don't have any way of, like, going after these submarines, and it's a huge ship, so
they can't avoid the torpedoes and the kitons.
Even this zigzagging thing, like there's no way. Like the sub could get so close, but they explain later that they didn't have sonar or anything like that. So yeah, so I guess they didn't even know it was there until it was too late. We cut to the 2 guys who were fighting in the last scene, who are now in the brig. For some reason, we're just following along these characters now, who just cannot seem to get along since they have nothing in common. And I bet there's no way they'll be best friends later in the film, like every fucking movie does this story. Like, it's just like I watched a movie, so I just put that into my movie. And I watched this other movie, and it had this story of this thing, so I just put that into my movie.
We did
Not
it.
every
We
single
solved
movie
racism.
needs so many parts to it. This movie is 130 minutes long. There's so much you could have cut out of this thing.
Again, I remember that being
something more interesting than what you came up with.
It's like that was the problem with Pearl Harbor too. Remember, it was like, I think, it was a super long movie about a bunch of human drama nobody gives a shit about.
Exactly.
About the attack on Pearl Harbor.
Tell the story of Pearl Harbor, for fuck's sakes. On deck, McVeigh is concerned about submarines, and that douche ass clown with the Admiral Sugar Daddy or whatever says that they should be zigzagging. It's always good to tell the captain how to do his job. That's a whole nother thing of military, like, nepo babies in that regard. Like these totally unqualified people who get these super high up ranks just because their dad's an admiral or whatever, when they're not qualified in the slightest. I think that's what they were going for with this, but it's just like, it's so unnecessary. Why is this even here? Just tell the story of McVeigh getting out into the sea, delivering the bomb, and then coming back and getting sunk, and then him having to try and rally the troops. Like,
you know why everybody likes Titanic? Because it's a human story about like 3 characters. It's not. a dozen that are all trying to like weave their characters around some disaster.
Yeah.
It's like we can. There's an emotional core to latch onto.
Yeah, there is. There's two of them.
I just felt like they were trying to ape Titanic and Pearl Harbor and all these other movies.
You could see the films they were trying to copy or mimic, and they did a very poor job.
Yeah.
Like you said, this worked in that movie. I'll just put it in this movie.
Yeah.
$38 million loss.
5 years.
That's insane.
5 years working on the script. 5 years. I think you might have overthought it just a little, just a tad bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just tell the goddamn story from the fucking book that came out. That would have been good enough. McVeigh explains that zigzagging isn't effective against kaijus and asks the kid if he's ever seen War of the Gargantuas. Wait. He says chitons, which is apparently a kamikaze torpedo that a person actually gets into and steers into the ship to blow it up.
I couldn't imagine anything more terrifying.
Japanese didn't fuck around, dude.
No.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't even know that was a thing until this movie.
It's probably more terrifying to miss like that one guy does and then just go off and die in the ocean.
Sputters out into the ocean.
And sink down and die. That's probably worse.
Yep.
I'm guessing he had some way of committing seppuku if he didn't.
Probably, I don't know.
Blow up. Next, we see a cutscene from an early 2000s Call of Duty game. Oh, wait. That is a Japanese submarine that we're supposed to believe is a real and not a clip from a cartoon. Can't wait to see how they did on the sharks, huh?
Oh, God.
Fucking A. Inside the cartoon submarine, we see the captain bowing to a picture of the guy who trained the bride in Kill Bill, who suddenly appears behind him and sounds like he's talking to him through a bedroom fan or something the whole time. Without opening his mouth, the ghost or whatever says the sub is cursed, but the captain argues with the hallucination that he is the one who's cursed, since the sub has 0 confirmed kills in 4 years. Again, just unnecessary fluff. Outside the room, his men look at family photos. Why not? And then they make fun of the captain for talking to himself again.
You think that still would be reinforced just so you couldn't hear through it so easily?
On the periscope, the captain spots a ship on the horizon and orders his men to prep a chiton. 2 guys pop up for the honor, and the captain thanks one of them for their sacrifice. While this is going on, we get a nice little fake out of the Indianapolis prepping their guns and preparing for battle. The sub fires the chiton, and the pilot honorably steers the fakest looking torpedo you can imagine off of a Milton Bradley looking cartoon submarine. And then I guess misses the merchant ship or whatever.
Yeah.
They also say later on that like another ship was sunk right before the Indianapolis in this exact same waterway.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah, 4 days
So they knew it was being patrolled by subs.
Yeah. So this isn't that ship. This is a different ship.
Yeah. And not the same sub. That sub didn't sink that other ship.
Yeah.
So there's multiple
Hey, at least
subs.
he died honorably or whatever the hell they believe.
Yeah.
We cut back to the Indianapolis performing drills, firing their loud as fuck guns while trying to be as stealthy and undetectable as possible for some goddamn reason. Literally makes no tactical sense other than we needed that moment to make us think that the fucking Indianapolis was like getting ready for the sub. I don't know, like the torpedoes coming in or they spotted the sub or something. Back on the sub, the captain cries over sending a man to die for no reason, but I'm sure his imaginary grandpa dad or whatever will comfort him with some fun schizophrenic ramblings in his head or whatever. We see the guy who was awkwardly writing down everything. It's so hard to fucking... there's so many characters that don't make a difference in the fucking story whatsoever. Like having to like tell like who it is each time.
Yeah. Because like
half of them don't even have fucking names until like later on in the film.
Until like the third act.
Until characters start shouting on the names, and you're like, who? What? Who are you talking about?
Theodore.
The chipmunk?
We see the guy who was awkwardly writing down everything he saw in the street earlier, delivering some pie to the bridge, but some Chris Tucker wannabe asks which piece of pie is Standish's. That's the over-the-top, hateable douche zigzag guy. And he hawks a loogie into it and puts Tabasco in his coffee. Seems like a swell guy.
It's like, what? He's not going to notice fucking Tabasco in his coffee. I don't like.
He notices immediately.
Yeah,
right. And it's obvious that would put you in the brig. So like, what the fuck is the point of this whole scene other than to get one of the greatest
to show that they hate this guy
the whole movie?
But everybody hates the guy. You gotta.
We get it. We understand that. You don't have to beat us over the head
already.
God damn.
McVeigh is super nice and asks Theodore what he puts in his delicious pie, which is the same thing I said on my honeymoon.
God damn it.
To which he says, "That's classified, sir," which is what my wife said. Well, Standish the asshole, calls the other guy giving him the spit pie an imbecile. Imbecile.
Yeah, I guess we're just to show that they like the captain and they don't like the first mate.
Yeah.
Whatever it
is.
It's
the whole, like, it goes back to what he says later about respect.
Yeah, better be respected than feared.
Yeah. Really beating us over the head with the fact that this guy's an absolute shit stain. We see the gambler guy who stole the engagement ring earlier calculating up how much money he owes to all the guys he blew or gambled with or whatever. And we can tell that he's semi-reluctantly decided to keep the ring, but not really. He's like, "How much are you worth? $800, I hope." Honestly, I cannot wait for these guys to get eaten by sharks already.
Fucking radar wannabe from MASH.
I saw a radar in a movie, the TV show, The MASH.
That's where this MASH guy gets enlisted next, or deployed next. He gets deployed to Korea.
That'd be awesome. It's a prequel. We cut to a weird little montage of random sailors trying to figure out what their mission is and what they're carrying, and along with a stupid-ass scene of a sailor asking a guy why he joined the Marines, to which he says, "To kill people."
I forgot about that.
It wasn't followed by some music from a Bugs Bunny cartoon or something right after. Fucking stupid, dude. We cut to Tom Sizemore sweating since he's coked out of his mind, or maybe that's just his character, explaining that if the ship ever sinks, either the Japanese will get you or the sharks will. Then he spends the next 5 fucking minutes explaining what a shark is in case you're under the age of 5, complete with a jump scare and Tom punching a guy in the stomach for some reason, which I'm guessing wasn't in the script. That's just Tom being Tom.
100% unscripted.
Makes no sense, has nothing to do with anything. He just punches a guy in the stomach for no fucking reason.
The guy messed up his blocking or something. Went off.
No, he was just like Patrick said, he's just coked out of his brain, and so he's like, I'm just gonna punch this guy.
Also, they carry around a white dove in a cage, which some guy says is actually a pigeon, and that the ship is 13 years old, and they cross paths with a black cat walking across the ocean, etc., etc. Some pretty fucking heavy-handed foreshadowing, don't you think? We hear McVeigh in voiceover again say they accomplished their mission in record time with 0 casualties, while we watch a toy boat in a bathtub or something sail into the Philippines. Really, I feel like the cinematography is okay. It's the CGI that really does it.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's like it was shot. I mean, you could tell it was shot. Excuse me. You could tell it was shot well, but it's just like the cutting, just the fucking constant cutting. It doesn't allow you to appreciate the way that it was actually shot, because boom, 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 and then the shitty CGI makes it even worse. And then sometimes the lighting's not the greatest, or it's confusing.
Yeah,
like,
I'm guessing
there's so much light at night.
They ran out of money to do the CGI, and We're like, you're not getting any more. So
Yeah.
find
Cut
the
around
cheapest CGI studio you can in Malaysia and give us something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and the Philippines, they were already there. They were just like, "Can you do this? We have $12. Will you do it for $12?"
They should have just used real sharks.
He says they were ordered to return to combat, but were still being denied their escort since the mission they were on was top secret. Also, we watched the bomb being delivered to the Enola Gay, which wasn't actually named until the day before the bomb was dropped 10 days later, and was probably on a completely different fucking island, but I guess, who gives a shit about facts or whatever.
Yeah. Actually, we watched it get delivered to the PS1 version of the Enola Gay.
Yeah.
CGI tarmac.
We see the bomb being loaded on a plane or truck or who gives a shit while McVeigh begs an admiral for an escort since he's been away at sea for way too long. Wait, no, he meant escorted destroyers.
He meant both.
But the admiral says, "How can you have an escort since you were never here?" While we see, I shit you not, a fucking jaw from a shark framing the entire scene. Colonoscopies are more subtle than this fucking movie.
They beat you over the head with the foreshadowing from the stupid 20-minute conversation about sharks to then it being repeated again by the stupid guys to that's like the cherry on top.
So dumb, dude. On the ship, the men eat birthday cake for a guy celebrating his last mission. Fuck that guy.
2 days
That
from
one
retirement.
guy.
It was his last mission.
It was, yeah. And that guy, Bama, who we're supposed to remember or care about, makes fun of the dickwad Standish dude who happens to walk in right in the middle of it. So glad that we have this personal connection with these people who don't exist. Really feel like it added so much.
Yeah.
This is a scene that is completely out of character for Bam too. Bama,
Yeah.
Bam. He is so different in this scene than any other scene.
Yeah.
He's like the center of attention and gregarious and jumping around and making goofy I don't know. Might have
been Mike.
Channing Tatum or something.
Yeah, it should have been his buddy.
It should have been Mike.
I thought
Yeah.
it was his buddy at first because you could hardly kind of see what the fuck's
Yeah,
going
I couldn't
on.
even remember who it was.
Yeah.
So I didn't even notice it was out of character because I couldn't tell what fucking character it was.
Plus, all these dudes just look the same anyways.
Yeah.
You know how sailors all look alike. Standish busts them for drinking, and then Mike takes the fall for Bama since he's a stand-up guy or whatever the fuck we're supposed to get. Did they just switch the characters and they forgot? They're like, oh,
I think
shit.
so,
oh,
yeah.
no, it was supposed to be that guy.
It's too late.
But Standish
we already
then
shot it.
gives half the crew mess hall duty for enjoying life or whatever the fuck. I hope Mario Van Peebles just suddenly shows up in the film and then he gets eaten by a shark in the first fucking scene. I hope the shark pulls him so deep into the water that he almost runs out of breath, but then the shark releases him just in time for him to surface too quickly and he gets the bends and then the shark eats him.
Oh my god.
The sailors all happily leave the Philippines on their fake boat, having delivered nuclear annihilation to Japan, and we see Mike searching through some guy's shaving kit looking for the engagement ring he lost. Mike and Bama have a fun homoerotically charged argument while wearing only towels about how maybe it's for the best that Mike wasn't able to propose to Clara since now Bama can have him all to himself or her or whatever. I don't know.
This movie was definitely very homoerotic, which was weird.
In the Navy.
That's just what men do when they're on a ship together. They bathe together and they just have really long, complex arguments. It's the writer.
towels.
That's the guy who wrote it.
We got you.
Then some doofuses come in and ask Bama, because he's a diver all of a sudden for some reason, about sharks, complete with a picture of a great white shark in a magazine in case you don't know what a fucking shark looks like. And Bama says you only have to worry about them if you're bleeding, which is also not true. What? What this What do this? Bama, what do this, shark? Tell me shark story.
Well, they're just getting a second opinion because their first instruction came from Tom Sizemore, and
that's
an
true.
unreliable narrator.
Right.
That guy's done more heroin than fucking Keith Richards. Literally, I'm pretty sure. McVeigh and the bridge crew make a plan to get through some bad weather as quickly as possible in the dark, and McVeigh scolds Standish for being an asshole to the men. The douche does some douchey shit, and McVeigh tells him it's better to be respected than feared. Suddenly, we hear a loud music sting and cut to a ridiculously fake-looking submarine. But thankfully, I think it's safe to say they're going to finally put an end to all this unnecessary exposition and make with the sharks, the real heroes of the movie. Should have called it U.S.S. Indianapolis, Mackerels of Honor.
God damn it.
I know that's disrespectful to the men in the USS Indianapolis. Again, I am in no way talking about those goddamn legends who died. I'm only talking about the shitty actors on this shitty-looking CGI boat reading this shitty script. We cover all our bases. Anyways, the toy submarine surfaces like a turd in a bathtub and spots the Indianapolis, who is not zigzagging since they're powering through bad weather and chitons, all that shit that we already fucking talked about. Don't worry, it'll be explained again in excruciating detail during the fun courtroom drama part of this dumpster fire later on. Rather than stealthily return home with no escort, the men decide to blast some music through the intercom so the whole Japanese fleet can find them like a bunch of absolute dumb shits. Quick fact, when the ship is returning to Hawaii, music is played through the loudspeakers, including those on deck. As the ship did not have an escort and was trying to be stealthy as possible, this never would have been allowed.
Yeah.
Not sure we even needed that quick fact, because why the fuck would they be playing music while they're trying to go through?
Yeah.
Damn it. Every little detail about this movie. It's almost like if you explain it to somebody, you're kind of like, oh, maybe I'm being too critical. But then as you go through it, you're like, holy shit, this thing sucks. Mm-hmm. Before the sub can mercifully end all our suffering, we get another scene of that black prisoner and white prisoner reminding us racism existed in World War II, in case you forgot. And that guy who spit in Standish's pie deep throats a chicken bone.
Suck that bone like you've done that before.
Why not? Why not? On the sub, the captain decides not to risk sending another chitin and instead opts for a regular torpedo, and we see a scene of the chaos on the sub guest directed by a monkey with a GoPro strapped to his head for some reason. Man, I hated this period of like when GoPros suddenly became a thing, and they were like, we can use this for filmmaking. Mm-hmm. No.
Weirdly enough, I kind of felt like this movie needed more shaky cam. Like,
yeah, it did. Actually,
everything was a steady shot, even in like the action stuff. It just felt so clinical and fake because it was like a cable documentary or something. The way they filmed it, didn't
especially
feel
during
authentic.
the sinking, it was like we needed some action, some drama to it. Like there's that scene where the ship is like tipped,
Titanicing.
And they're like standing on it. That was an actual set that they actually built that was actually sideways so that they could feel like they were falling or whatever. But then it's all shot like perfectly straight on.
Yeah.
Like one shot, no shaky cam whatsoever. I'm not always a fan of shaky cam, but sometimes it needs it for certain.
That's how I felt too. Like I felt like this movie actually needed it and didn't have it. And it was the first time I felt that way watching a film. I couldn't, for the longest time, I couldn't figure out like what felt off, and that's what it was. It was like even during the action stuff, it was like just
stable,
static shots of stuff happening.
Yeah. But then when you're flying through a submarine, it's all shaky, which doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
They should have hired that guy from Arsenal to shoot it.
Oh, Jesus.
Then it would have been all yellow and sepia tone.
Stick a GoPro on an alligator.
Stick it on the shark, the shaky shark head.
It's what Werner Herzog would have done, damn it.
Yeah.
I can't be a filmmaker if you don't let me stick a GoPro on a shark.
I cannot lose my sharks. I don't think I can be a filmmaker anymore. 2 torpedoes slam into the bow of the boat in direct hits that no one on the ship saw coming, right as that guy who stole What's-His-Face's rings gets snake eyes and gambling.
Stay tuned for our episode of Snake Eyes.
Vitally important.
It's bad
Finally,
luck.
40 minutes into this garbage, the actual story can begin. But don't worry, they'll somehow manage to make it just as boring and humdrum as the first act.
Act 2. Let's get some motivation up in this thing.
I just noticed reading this. I watched some stuff on the actual footage of it. And the sub only got hit. The sub only hit the ship twice. But in the movie, it hits it, 4 times or whatever?
6. I think he said he fired 6 torpedoes. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like it hit the starboard side with two torpedoes, and it sank in 12 minutes. And that was it. It rolled onto its side and went down. It didn't split in half and do Titanic bullshit.
Yep. I think I put it in
Titanic,
one of the quick facts of that they made it sink exactly like the fucking Titanic, not the way it actually sank.
Ironically enough, I just read that Bernard Holt died. So the guy who played the captain in Titanic and Theoden in Lord of the Rings. I just read that he died. So we'll honor him with this crap.
We'll honor him the way that filmmakers honored the men of the USS Indianapolis.
The sub scores 2 more direct hits, which absolutely obliterate the model the filmmakers bought at Toys R Us, and chaos ensues. Some guy gets some CGI fake fire on his arm, and it looks really stupid and goofy. And Standish panics about the engines not being shut down. Some other guys actually catch on fire, so I'm not sure why they had the one guy have CGI fire on him. McVeigh congratulates the sailor for getting a distress call out in time. I'm sure that'll save all their bacon. And Mike burns his hand on a door that has no fire whatsoever behind it.
He just opens the door 2 seconds later. There's no fire.
They're like, don't touch it.
Yeah. I didn't understand that.
And they're all coughing, and there's no smoke whatsoever.
Yeah,
in the rooms they're in. Maybe
Couldn't
they're
afford that
expecting
shot.
it all to be CGI'd.
Yeah.
A station in the Philippines receives the Indianapolis distress call, but a guy screams that they can't help unless they have confirmed the position, since it could be a Japanese trap. McVeigh calls for the men to abandon ship, and while this is going on, we see the ship's chaplain stumble through water and almost trip on a National Geographic with a shark on the cover. Just fuck off. I don't know if it's an actual National Geographic. I thought it said National Geography or something. They couldn't get the rights to do a National Geographic.
I feel like I've read somewhere that they accidentally misspelled geographic on the thing.
Check that shot while you're checking this because I swear to God, I didn't want to rewind it because I didn't care, but I thought it said National Geography or something, and I thought they were just doing a fake.
I'll get a good shot of that bad boy.
Maybe they couldn't show National Geographic without paying them or something. But
yeah.
I swear it's just spelled wrong.
The Chris Tucker wannabe unlocks his friend's cell door since I guess he had the keys the whole time. So does he work in the brig? Is he stationed? I thought he was a kitchen guy.
He's a cook in the kitchen.
He's got the keys to the prison. Whatever.
They run for it after dropping the keys in the water, but the black guy, Garrison, goes back to save the white prisoner, but they somehow lock themselves back in the cell together for reasons.
Yeah, I don't get that. How did that happen? I literally blinked, and then the next thing I know, they were in the cell together.
So he unlocked it, they open it, and then an explosion rocks the ship, and he falls into it, and then it closes the door, and the door just automatically locks again. Not sure if that's how those locks work, but that's what happened. Because I would have figured it was one of those actual catches with an actual lock on it, but whatever. Now they're locked in together.
How romantic.
The ship splits in two at the exact spot of their cell, I guess, and they swim free. Oh my God. It's oh my God, we're going to drown. And then the ship breaks, and then they're just out. They're just in open water. It just cuts to them. You don't see them getting out of the tear in the wall or whatever you'd expect would have happened. And they don't get sucked down with the wreckage, lucky, which is also would have happened. They're in the submerged section of the ship. It would have just pulled them down. I guess they were saved because by God, since they were praying, and he wanted the world to see that black men and white men can live in harmony if they work together. Ebony and ivory and all that, whatever. He turned a blind eye to 400 years of slavery, but who's counting?
Jesus.
We see hundreds of men panicking in the water watching their ship sink, and in a bizarre, horrible CGI jump cut, McVeigh is blown off the ship by an explosion into the water.
Go! Go, Job! Job!
Oh, yeah, that's great. Oh, God.
He's there, the explosion, and then he's flying. It's
just like a G.I. Joe was blown off by like a firecracker into the water.
Yeah. That's just these cuts don't have any sense of occurring in the same scene or in the same moment. They're just random shots of things happening. Well, I love how explosions in movies don't cause catastrophic damage to people. They just kind of push them around like a stiff breeze. Or blow your leg off, I guess, if you're McWhorter.
So many questions about how his leg got blown off.
Yeah. 2 seconds after falling into the water, a great white shark passes right behind McVeigh in a really well-lit scene for being in the middle of the night. Just like they're in a swimming pool. Yeah. But I guess in the commotion, it decided to wait on eating him. It was probably just like, what the fuck is going on? Which is true. Sharks do that, though.
They're
true. Curious.
That's true.
Also, it knows better than to eat the legend.
The ship finally sinks after we watch sailors slide around on the deck, and it sinks just like the Titanic for a good 10 minutes, complete with more horribly executed CGI of them falling into the guns and such. And I'm pretty sure they copied the exact shot of propeller guy falling down.
Yeah,
and
dude, it's the same fucking shot.
It's the same shot.
Which, by the way, it's not at all how the ship actually sank, according to eyewitnesses. But who cares? Certainly not the people who wrote the movie. Quick fact, in the movie, the Indianapolis splits in half while it sinks, Titanic style. But according to Captain McVeigh's after-action report, the ship sank by the head, then developed a 30-degree list to starboard, which is where the torpedoes actually hit it, which rapidly increased to 90 degrees before it finally capsized and sank out of sight. So it just sort of rolled onto its side and went down. Mm-hmm. But that's not cinematic enough, I guess. You got to fucking copy James Cameron.
Yep. Though James Cameron actually did his research. That is how the Titanic sank.
Yes. And I think James Cameron actually timed it so that the actual sinking of the Titanic takes place in real time of what the actual sinking happened.
Yeah. It's funny as like, what's his face? The astronomer who was always on Twitter talking shit.
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah.
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
He actually called out Cameron for having the wrong star charts.
Yeah. And then Cameron fixed it.
Cameron went back and changed it.
He fixed it in the
what the
re-release.
fuck, dude?
Honestly,
that level of accuracy, or there's this.
That's honestly how I'd react to that. Guy being a douche, be like, the stars weren't aligned properly. Fuck it, I'm James Cameron. Here.
Fuck off, dude.
I'll spend $50 million and re-edit the thing just to fuck you over. Well, McVeigh finds a life raft and starts screaming out for his men, but I guess somehow the explosion blew him 10 miles away because there's no one even within earshot. He's just completely silent, alone. Then we see the captain of the sub listening to the screams of the men on the surface while trying not to sob, I think. Quick fact, in reality, the Japanese submarine I-58 that sunk the USS Indianapolis did not hang around to observe the survivors, which would have been a pointless risk and a dangerous waste of time, but confirmed the sinking, then surfaced and departed the area at full speed. Also, why I think it only used 2 torpedoes. You don't need to fire half a dozen of them to take out a ship when you could just do it in 2.
Yep.
They cost a couple bucks. The Japanese are going to come get us. Like, why? Why would they care? Like, you sank the ship. They're not going to come waste resources. I mean, maybe they did. I don't know. I feel like that's not what you do in wartime. You sink the ship and you move on.
Yeah. We were at war. We were enemies. Why the fuck would you try and help people you were trying to kill?
Yeah. I'm really worried about it. Like, are they going to make him try to actually rescue the survivors or something?
Yeah. I know. I was like,
inaccurate.
I know. I was like, they've already taken liberties. Are they going to try to say that this dude went and rescued some of them?
They do say that he called in a distress call later on in the film.
Yeah,
they said that they overheard him confirming the strike on the ship. Not that he called in a distress called, but they heard him confirm.
They intercepted
that he took
his,
down a ship.
his transmission.
His communication. So.
Gotcha.
Dawn breaks, and we see a couple sailors floating before one of them's pulled under by a shark. Another couple guys get attacked on a broken piece of deck board or a door or whatever was at the end of Titanic. We cut to see that there are several spread out groups, including one with Standish, who steals some dead guy's wallet, spits in his dead mouth, phones his wife up to call her a bitch, and then pushes the dead guy out of his lifeboat so that no one else is allowed in since he's an officer. Yeah, the subtlety goes a really long way. You don't have to make him the biggest piece of shit ever to live in order for us to not like him. We get it. He's a jerk.
He's a jerk. I got it. Just beating us over the head with a 2x4 of how shitty this guy is. God.
Surprised the director didn't try to get Billy Zane to come play the character.
I love that.
What do you mean he's not interested?
What's already the bad guy?
Standish yells for all able-bodied men to get out of the raft so that the injured men and the officers can get in them instead, and to bring all the remaining provisions over to him. When they don't comply, he takes out his gun and fires it into the air.
Surprised he didn't just start shooting people. The way that they make this guy so over the top.
Yeah.
We cut to McVeigh, who stumbles upon McWhirter, Tom Sizemore, if you're keeping track, in a raft with a dead guy. Tom Sizemore begs for some morphine, or maybe that was supposed to be his character, which the captain then gives it to him. And we see that McWhirter's leg was blown off, which he clutches like a teddy bear as he drifts off into morphine heaven. It's reliving the Saving Private Ryan glory days, I guess.
Yeah.
Or Black Hawk Down.
I used to be a real actor. Now I'm clutching a fucking fake foot. Now I'm being directed by Mario Van Peebles.
We see a Windows 95 screensaver of a plane. It's supposed to be a real plane flying over the crash site. McVeigh fires a flare, but I guess Thomas Jane's character, Lieutenant Marks, was too busy telling his co-pilot how different the ending of The Mist was to the book, so he didn't see it. Standish tells all the men around him to save their energy instead of trying to signal a plane that could save their lives, then contemplates shooting them again since they challenged his authority. I'm sure this guy's family was stoked at the premiere to see how they honored his memory. He's not a real person, by the way, just to be clear. Just to stand in for military brats and officers out of their element. Yeah. Basically, what I'm saying is that his entire character could have been cut out of this movie and saved us this annoying-ass performance.
Yeah.
Completely unnecessary. To the tragedy of the natural tragedy of this story. Didn't need a character like this.
Like I said, like there's so much of this of like this. The original story wasn't interesting. You couldn't find the crux of the story from the real story. You had to make up half the fucking cast. Like
I'm telling you, I guarantee you, a lot of this was drawn from the success of Pearl Harbor. They like, well, we have to kind of embellish and trying to make relatable characters or sympathetic characters. It's like you feel sympathetic for dudes being eaten by sharks after their ship just got sank. Like that's the sympathy. They got shanked by the Japanese sub.
Japanese shanked us.
Like that's where the sympathy comes from. Is the real?
There's
event
already a human
place.
story in this.
You don't need to try
drama.
to shoehorn in these forgettable characters and their backstory.
I just think of like the faces of the guys, the actual survivors watching this at the premiere. Like, what the fuck is this, man? Who is that guy? Who is this dude?
None of them watch this movie.
I'm sure at least those guys that were interviewed at the end, I guarantee you they were probably brought to the premiere. In the
Maybe. I would assume they don't want to relive it.
I don't want to go to the Philippines.
Well, we cut back to the plane where we find out they're looking for a downed aircraft and have no idea that the Indianapolis was sunk.
Maybe that's why they did the premiere in the Philippines, so that the actual survivors wouldn't go to it.
Maybe.
Oh, man, we can't show this to them.
Mm-hmm.
This movie's ass.
Wait till it comes out. Then they can watch it.
Whatever. Watch it on the History Channel. We're in their Lazy Boys.
Or TLC.
Yeah. I'm just going to restart this one since that was a non-callback to whatever we were saying. We cut back to the plane where we find out they are looking for a downed aircraft and have no idea the Indianapolis was sunk. To me, it seems like it would be way easier for them to spot the wreckage of an exploded warship and 900 men floating in the water. But I guess since they're only looking for a single downed plane, they just kind of turn a blind eye to all that or something.
Tunnel vision, you know?
Yeah. They head back to base, and we cut to a guy playing harmonica, and that writer dude somehow writing into a soaking wet notebook. Again, I was like, oh, maybe this is the guy who wrote the book that this is based on, and it's supposed to be his insert character.
Nope. How the fuck did this guy get a harmonica in the ocean?
Or, I mean, why is the guy still being able to write? I don't understand.
It's like, where'd he get a pencil? Where'd he get the fucking book? And like, how is he writing into the pages? They're soaking wet.
I'm guessing. I mean, I don't know if they had these back in the 40s. This is my ignorance, but they do have.
They have like dive notebooks.
Yeah.
Are
well,
real,
I guess. Well, yeah. Well, at that point it'd be like
they do, but why would this guy have one of those?
Yeah. Why would a random dude on a ship have a grease pen and
he's just like we said, he's just like regular sailors.
Bama would have it because he's a diver. He uses that for
he knows all about sharks.
His diver activities.
Just add it in there, just like in fucking National Treasure, where we just had to add that in, just so that you can explain like one piece of the story.
Oh fuck!
The gambler guy again with the glasses that somehow survived. Still has his glasses somehow. Swims up and tells all the black guys that they're going to die for a country that doesn't give a shit about them. And we have a nice round table of black guys and Southerners talking about how the streets are bad for everyone, no matter what color they are, which just feels so forced and out of place. But I guess they all bond over women or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
They talk about how fine women are or something. You know.
It's just like, why? Why is this even in here? Like, there's so much stuff.
They're being eaten alive by sharks. Why would they be talking about all this?
I just watched my buddy get his head shoot off by a shark. But, you know, things are bad all over, guys.
Yeah.
You know, the streets of Mobile, Alabama are just as tough as Detroit.
There's sharks on those streets, too.
Thankfully, that conversation is cut short by a feeding frenzy from the sharks, who pick off a couple of dudes. As Standish screams at everyone since we couldn't go 2 minutes without listening to his stupid voice. And meanwhile, a PlayStation 2 sub sends a message to Japan about the sinking. The chaplain swims around the bodies of the men in the water and gives them last rites before being surrounded by the godless demon sharks who spare his life because of Jesus or something. While this is going on, the writer guy swims halfway across the ocean and bumps into McVeigh and McWhirter, who are cooking up McHorder's left foot. While this is going on, the guy swims halfway across the ocean and bumps into McVeigh and McWhirter, who are cooking up McWhirter's left foot for lunch.
Like, I'm having some.
It's better than
Toes are
Spam.
delicious.
Better than Spam.
Just kidding, I love Spam.
By the way, the thing with the chaplain, I think that actually happened because they actually talk about the chaplain at the end of the movie, and I think they were trying to show how brave he was, and they're trying to get him the Navy Cross posthumously, you know, now. Since they got McVeigh cleared of all charges, spoilers, now they want to get that chaplain the Navy Cross.
Yeah.
Just give it to all of them. Like, what's
yeah,
the
just
point?
give it to all of them.
Hold on. Jesus Christ.
Fucking, what else do you need to do?
Theodore tells McVeigh where the other group is while Tom Sizemore begs for more morphine. I'm guessing that was in his contract. McVeigh jumps into another lifeboat to try and find other men, leaving Theodore to distract McWhirter from having a blown-off foot, which he does by reading from his magic book that doesn't seem to get wet. Why didn't they all go? Like, I don't understand why he had to jump into a smaller raft to paddle away when they could just paddle away in the bigger raft.
Think about the amount of energy it would take to carry Tom Sizemore's fat ass around the ocean. No, honestly, I mean, it'd be more efficient for him just to go by himself and then tow people back.
I just felt like they should stay together because that's...
How would he ever find him again?
Yeah, and the ones that are all on rafts were the ones that generally stayed a little safer because the sharks would pick off the loners that were out in the water. So you feel like try to consolidate as much as possible and stay together because, like you said, current's going to blow people around and move them around. They're not going to be able to find each other
I thought
again.
that was a little weird too, but I guess, I mean, in his logic is that it's easier for him, to go by himself and bring people back. And apparently it works because eventually he has like a whole crew of people with him.
Yeah.
Before he somehow manages to make contact with the other large group. I don't know.
Yeah, what they said there was Group A and Group B or
Group
whatever.
A, Group B, and then Nicolas Cage by himself until he finds Tom Sizemore.
Yeah. McWhorter screams at him that he's fucking dying, so he better read him something that doesn't suck. But from what I'm seeing, there is a single page of that book that isn't dribble. But when Theodore reads a bit about a chick in a tight red dress, McWhorter gets hard and thinks it's great. Morphine must be some good shit. Also, for some reason, Theodore's just sitting on McWhorter's injured leg this entire scene, which probably doesn't help things. He's trying to staunch the bleeding, you know?
He's all yelling at him, get off my leg.
Fuck off of me, you piece of shit.
And he just keeps sitting on him, dude.
Let me read you this. Some guy pukes, and how does he know how much he can drink if he doesn't drink too much?
Oh my God, just fucking give me morphine.
Please give me more morphine.
McVeigh finds some more men and brings them back to join Theo and McWhorter. All the other guys want to know Theodore's story, which has basically devolved into a 50 Shades of Grey book at this point. They want to know how it ends.
It really has. What the fuck?
Does he fuck her or what?
And then they fucked at the end. Oh, it's awesome.
Oh my God, that was hot.
We again hear McVeigh in a voiceover recite a letter to his wife that I guess he wrote in the ocean or something, where he says he fears that he's let the men down, but he's trying to do little things to give them hope, like spoon feed them Spam. I fear I might have let the men down. The ship sank and they're all being eaten by sharks while starving to death and dying of dehydration, so they could be a little bummed out.
I think I might have let them down a little bit.
We cut to Mike and Bama and the raft. Remember those crucial characters? Where Mike is talking about how cute Clara is, and Bama is still sulking about a chick, even though he's about to die in the middle of the fucking ocean. And meanwhile, some fat dude almost pukes on him, but manages to puke over the side, and a super fake-looking CGI shark bites his head off.
That was awesome.
He's just chumming the water, you know?
Yeah.
Mike slaps at the water to scare off the shark, but Bama says, "You ain't scaring him off, you rang the dinner bell." Which is stupid, but I guess it wasn't true since we immediately cut to nighttime.
I know, I was like, oh yeah, there's going to be more sharks.
Here it comes.
Nope, I just cut to a new scene.
Here comes all the CGI they had to cut.
Theodore and McVeigh have a heart-to-heart about how it's fine for McVeigh to use his wedding ring as a fishing lure since his wife would understand and she likes to fish. But not his Annapolis graduation ring. That's sacred. Which they don't ever show, by the way. They don't show him fishing with this ring, so I don't know.
No, they don't. And I feel like fishing in the middle of a shark infestation is probably a bad idea.
I don't know. I'm sure they did it or tried
And
it.
how are you
going to
cook it?
You just eat it raw? Like you're
Yeah, you
starving.
can eat it
Sushi? Gross.
Yeah.
Sashimi, anybody? I'm having some.
Isn't it like kind of poetic that they would eat sushi after being sunk by the Japanese?
Touche. This is a Japanese delicacy.
This is really going to catch on one of these days.
When we get back, we should all go in on a sashimi restaurant.
We're still all just dumbfounded that this is the script someone put together to tell this story. Half the characters in this movie are fake, and most of these conversations never happened. They delivered the atomic bomb, they were sunk, and had to survive 5 days at sea while being eaten by sharks. And this is the movie that you come up with.
I love how we keep hammering on that.
Just watch any random documentary or video about the Indianapolis, and it's much more
Read the Wikipedia
drama than this. Yeah, just read the Wikipedia entry.
It's more accurate than this.
And better written. Anyway, Theodore asks about McVeigh's wife and how he feels about her, but that's interrupted by Tom Sizemore incoherently screaming, which again probably wasn't in the script. McWhorter screams about not wanting to die yet because he hasn't seen his boy, and they just give him more morphine.
No angels! No angels! Ah! It's just Tom Sizemore having a fucking like freak out. Then he bashes out the windows of the submarine. I don't know.
When we cut to the Japanese sub where the captain's imaginary friend again talks to him through a bedroom fan, saying that he should just let someone know about the men on the surface since no one's come for them yet. Well, we cut to the surface where we see that McWhorter died as he lived, high on morphine. Rest in peace, Tom Sizemore. I guess. Why would the Japanese sub-captain call in the sinking of an enemy ship?
What are they just sitting there? Like they're just sitting there listening?
They're just waiting.
Well, we know that's not what really happened, but it's
exactly.
Because it doesn't make sense.
Fucking no.
I guess they talk about that there's still Japanese in the water, so maybe they're saying they're sitting there waiting for another ship to come by that they can torpedo again, but like that's not how they did it.
Yeah.
No, they had to get out of there because you're going to bring an entire fleet, and that fleet is going to find you, and that fleet is going to sink you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, McFay pushes McWhorter's corpse into the ocean and then sobs openly before burying it deep inside since he's a military man in the 1940s and emotions are for girls or whatever. We cut to Standish, who screams at the remaining men around him that an island has been spotted. What? Like,
this is my favorite part.
What? I'm guessing this
island has been spotted.
I'm guessing this is based on the eyewitness reports of them hallucinating, and they said that men would see islands and try to swim off to them and then died.
Yeah.
I just assumed he was just trying to steal all the fucking food and then leave.
No, they say that the rations are out. It's like one of the subtitles, or not subtitles, but like the little captions on the bottom. It says that the rations are depleted at this point.
Okay.
And so I think that's to then tell us that this guy has lost his fucking mind because he's dehydrated and starving.
They said like some of the men tried to dive down to the Indianapolis to get supplies because they were like... and then drowned. Like, it's horrible. They were so...
They thought they could get down
desperate.
there.
And,
Wow. See, what the heck did you tell that story? God
floating
damn
there
it.
for 4 days. With no water, no food.
Tell that part of the
sharks.
Story. Trying to swim off to find islands, trying to swim into the Indianapolis, like the desperation. Like that story would have been so much more interesting.
Yeah,
I mean, it would have been sad, but obviously. But we're telling a sad story. We're not telling a happy story. This isn't some fucking story to be celebrated. This is a complete disaster.
Make up some
happened.
story about a guy not seeing his baby, or this dumb love triangle about two people that don't exist, and
some dude writing a fucking book that.
And solving racism.
God damn it.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, Standish says they all need to catch a current and ride to the island. That's not written. Never mind. He asks for some volunteers to join him and calls out to the prisoners. Remember them? For being troublemakers, and then just takes off with all the remaining supplies and fucks off into the ocean to never be seen again in the movie.
That's not true. I think that dude that was like, I promised my mama I'd make it home. I think he rose back with the dead bodies on the raft.
But the officer got Standish or whatever.
Yeah, Standish was dead. Yeah.
Oh, I thought he was dead in the raft.
No, he was the one telling him to go. He was like, "We got to take all the supplies, right, and get out of here."
I think he says that he was like they were all eaten by sharks or whatever.
They just killed him
because he's got a bunch of dead dudes hanging off the side of the raft when he comes back.
Yeah,
and I was like, anyway, okay. Anyways,
fuck, good riddance. Good character. Well, we see Mike and Bama floating in the ocean, and Bama has a vision of Clara showing up on a raft to save them, but he wakes up. But when he wakes up, he's being held by Mike tenderly in the raft. Bama then admits finally that he loves Clara. Mike doesn't seem stoked that his best friend's in love with the girl he plans to marry, but before he can think much about it, a shark bumps into them on the raft, and Mike gets his leg bitten off. Or bitten, I guess.
He gets chewed
bitten,
on. Gets chewed on a
just
little
gnaws
bit.
on it.
We cut to the two guys who were in the brig and see that they're just boating across the open ocean looking for spare supplies. They find a headless body holding Theodore's book and have a heart-to-heart about religion, race, women, and how black guy's girlfriend is a Michigan State arm wrestling champion. So... did they just kill Mario Van Peebles' son off camera after we spent all this time developing his character? Like, why? All right. The next morning, Bama and Mike talk about Clara, and we see that someone has smeared ketchup all over Mike's leg. It's like that. I guess the worst effect of this movie. He was just saying something. It's just like red paint on his leg.
Yeah. It's so bad.
They don't even make any attempt to make it look like a wound. They just like smeared some red paint on his leg.
Yeah.
All they're good.
They're like, yeah, his leg looks totally fine minus the blood. Blood.
Yeah.
It's that grape jelly from Arsenal.
Mike tells Bama to take care of Clara and then just kind of dies. Fuck Mike. Seriously. I'm glad he's dead. Also, fuck Bama. Like,
fuck them all, dude.
I love this woman who I never showed any interest in, and you are in love with and going to marry, and I never made a move on her. Oh, what was me?
I was going to make something of myself first. Wait till she's 30 and then marry her.
I love her, even though she doesn't love me, and she loves you, and it's all right. We'll save it for the happy ending for some reason. Bama loses it, screams and cries over his friend, and we can clearly see Mike's legs moving.
He's like, "You're crushing me! You're crushing me!"
Hey, man. It's like that scene in Tropic Thunder when he's crying over him. Like, hey, stop him, man.
We cut back to the group Standish abandoned, where we see the survivors of Standish's little island adventure crew come back. Most of them having died from the sharks, including Standish, so I guess there are some bright spots in this second act. Sorry, there was no island. We all just got eaten. Can we come back to you guys? Can we hang out? We still cool? I know we just left y'all to fucking die and took all the supplies, but can we hang out again?
I got a can of Spam left. Is that good enough?
Suddenly a shark comes along and knocks them all out of the raft, and the Marine who said he joined the military just to kill people earlier gets eaten. Remember that guy?
Yeah. Also, like, he was on a raft still, and then he jumps off and starts swimming to another raft? Why?
Why is he in this scene? Wasn't he, like, part of the detail that was holding the atomic bomb?
That's another thing I didn't understand is wouldn't he have continued to escort the bomb, or at least stayed back at the station, because he's not part of the ship's crew. Mm-hmm. So why the fuck did he stay with the ship? It doesn't make sense. And then I don't know. It's just, Jesus Christ, this movie's a fucking mess.
We only had to pay certain actors. He already talked.
I bet you that's probably it, because they needed to keep faces that had lines.
Yeah.
My favorite part of this whole section is that anyone missing a limb is obviously just an amputee with fake blood rubbed on their stump.
And like, and it's like perfectly like amputated.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then we're just supposed to ignore that.
Let's put some red on there. Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty cool that they brought in actors with amputations, but like you couldn't have, maybe tried to make it look like it had just been.
Which I guess they copied from Saving Private Ryan, because
that
happened a lot in Saving Private Ryan. They used actors with amputees to play the characters with limbs blown off.
Fucking
but they actually tried on that one.
Then you put some effects on it to make it look like it's.
That's what happens when you have talented people at the helm of that.
Yeah.
Just rub some blood on his stump. That's good enough.
Again, we've said it before, but based on the accounts from survivors, experts believe most of the sharks that attacked the men in the water were oceanic white tips. But despite this, there isn't a single shot of an oceanic white tip anywhere in the movie.
No.
It's just great whites and
great
animatronics.
Whites. Only great whites because Jaws. That's it.
Yeah. I don't even know if great whites are in that part of the world or not.
I don't know. I mean, that's pretty deep sea.
I feel like they tend to nest close to shorelines.
They do, because they eat seals and stuff, and seals don't hang out in the middle of the fucking ocean. So.
Yeah. So maybe randomly you might once in a while encounter them as they're
they migrate and they go places.
Yeah, as they're migrating to a different location. But I don't really feel like they would have encountered great white sharks in that situation.
No.
In a voiceover, McVeigh says it's been 4 days and most of the men have given up or are already dead. While this is going on, we see a guy carve keys to a piano into the foam on the side of his life raft, which he just pretends to play before being eaten by a shark. Oh, no, wait, I was just fantasizing about the last part. The camera hands up to the sky, and that's how we end hour 20 of the second act.
Act 3. Time to resolve some shit.
We see a plane flying overhead, flown by a guy named Chuck, who really likes to have a fun time. The ebony and ivory prisoners spot the plane, and Garrison, the black guy, suddenly goes blind for the rest of the film, like Dewey Cox goes smell blind, just for absolutely no reason at all.
Yeah, I don't know what was up with that.
I don't know, man.
He saw it in Black Hawk Down. Except that guy goes
I
deaf.
thought it was like, is he supposed to be blind from the sun glinting, or is it like shell shock, that happens to some people with extreme trauma sometimes?
I figure, he probably went blind from being out there for 4 or 5 days. It's protection, eye protection.
But then he's still blind in the courtroom scene later on.
Yeah, like it's permanent.
I think it's permanent. Yeah, I think it's permanent.
But like not nobody else seemed to go blind, and they were all in the same conditions. So
racism.
Just wanted to have a Ray Charles character in the end.
Anyways, one of the plane crew members spot a huge oil slick from the sunken ship, but they seem to think that the oil is from a Japanese sub and get ready to drop some bombs. Sheer tax dollars at work, folks.
That was real. There was a bomber that was out there that spotted them.
Yep. But just before the bomber can end the Indianapolis crew's suffering, they spot the lifeboats and radio it in. That same chat.
What was with that guy's accent? The guy playing the pilot. I could not figure out what the fuck he was supposed to be. Like,
I think he was just trying to do an American accent. He clearly is not.
Like you can't cast a random American to play this guy. Like, it was so distracting.
We're above something. I think it's an oil spill from a Japanese sub. Let's circle back.
Yeah, it was really weird. That same jackass ignored the first distress call, tells them to leave them in since the Japanese could still be out and about. But when Thomas Jane finds out men have been spotted in the water, he decides to take action. I love how he's just like standing in the ocean with binoculars trying to find what he thinks are a couple guys, who went down in a plane hundreds of miles away.
He's just watching the horizon,
He's like,
that'll help.
They could be out there somewhere, boys. Anyways, before abandoning the men in the water, the bomber crew drop all the supplies they have down to the men, which are just immediately eaten by the sharks like a pitfall game. Thomas Jane arrives on the scene and requests permission to land so they can help the men, but HQ tells him not to since it will cause major damage to the plane. Yada, yada, yada. He does it anyways, and we watch him do it in excruciating real time. Like, fucking seriously. We watch him land for a solid 2 minutes straight. Also, for some reason, they show us the chaplain dying right as the plane gets there, I guess for dramatic effect, or his prayers were finally answered or whatever. I don't know. That was a little weird.
Yeah, I don't know what was up with that shot of the plane landing. Like,
it was so long.
So a behind the scenes little bit is they destroyed that fucking plane because they accidentally got it too close to shore, and then it ended up crashing on the shore, and then it ended up getting bounced around and busted apart.
Awesome.
So like they actually landed that plane. It looks like it's fucking CGI for the whole thing anyway, but like they actually landed the plane into the ocean just off the shore, I think in Mobile, or it might have been Philippines, I don't know. But it ended up crashing apart like in front of a bunch of spectators on the beach. They watched them fuck up this plane. It took on water, and then it just started tipping into the sand, and then they like showed the aftermath, and it was just pieces of the plane on a barge.
Well, that explains why they had to cut some of the budget.
I'm guessing that was an original World War II plane to use. They destroyed.
They just fucking destroyed.
God. Imagine the insurance payoff of that.
The movie made $1.6 million. Are you guys going to be able to pay for my plane? Or
sure they they lost more than that on the fucking plane.
Thomas Jane and his co-pilot start bringing men on board the plane so they can sleep on the wings as night falls. And McVeigh says, "Thank you for landing," in a very cagey manner.
That was pretty close, dude. It sounded just like it.
They try to talk him into getting on the plane, but being the selfless leader he is, he says he'll be fine hanging out on the life raft that he made from all the dead bodies instead. Lieutenant Marks tells HQ it's the USS Indianapolis and to send everyone they got before the sharks finish the job. In narration, McVeigh says he doesn't understand what took so long, but he's happy as we see several fake boats arrive on the scene.
The real story, the first boat that showed up was under its own the captain's own orders, like his own authority. He didn't wait for
mission.
orders to do it. He heard that there was the SOS and send his ship out there, knowing that it was in a submarine infested waters and dangerous and stuff. They didn't care.
Yeah.
Was it a Navy ship?
Yeah.
Or was it just some
No, it was a Navy ship. It was like, I can't remember the name of it. But yeah, the captain heard about it and immediately went over there to save him.
Yeah.
Just to hammer home the point that they would have fucking been saved if somebody had just answered the goddamn distress call.
Yeah.
Yep.
And to also hammer home that the real story is more interesting than this one.
Yes. Yeah. Over in Washington, D.C., the hillbilly congressman who suggested they send the bomb to Japan is alerted that the hero ship that delivered the bomb in record time got sunk 4 days ago. His informant explains that 3 SOS calls were ignored and that the Japanese even radioed in, but all that wasn't enough to send help. And by that, the Japanese radioed in that they sunk the ship and the U.S. intercepted the communication. But don't worry, that's not good enough to send it. Huh?
The hero ship that delivered the bomb in record time got sunk 4 days ago.
They're reading by that. Like, that guy's entire reading was terrible. Just awful.
Yeah, that's how he said it, I'm sure.
Yeah. Like he was looking at cue cards to remember what the fuck he's supposed to say. Like it's an SNL skit. The hillbilly says they'll bury the story when the Japanese surrender and find a scapegoat to take the fall. So we immediately cut to McVeigh looking after his men in a makeshift hospital in, is it Guam? No, Guam. There we go. McVeigh asked Bama if Mike made it through the fire festival. Wait, no, wrong event. If he made it through the Shark Chum Dehydration Fest, and Bama says no.
Why does McVeigh, I guess he knows everybody under his command. I just thought it was weird that he's asking about this one random guy.
He's like, did your friend make it? The one that was with you? So I think he
because
didn't even know
doesn't he
his name.
see them? No, never mind. No,
He gets a whole, I think he said 300 new guys come in on this mission. So there was 300 people that he didn't know at all.
Yeah.
That just joined the ship.
I still feel like knowing 1,000 sailors as the captain would be super impressive. I mean, I'm trying to remember that.
I'm trying to remember if there was a point where we interacted with Bama and Mike earlier in the film to remember.
I think when he's evacuating the boat.
Yeah, that's it. You're right.
I think he runs into
They're
Bama,
all on
but
the thing.
not Mike, because Bama finds Mike afterwards, I think. I don't know. It was a whole mess. Who cares?
Anyway. Bama's also sunburned all hell, and he seems to be the only person who is. Nobody else in this scene
I know.
seems
Nobody
to have
else.
sunburn.
the pasty white dudes are still pasty after this whole thing. Like glasses guy, gambling guy. Anyways, McVeigh gives Bama a sincere handshake. Bama cries, and in narration, McVeigh says, through some terrible twist of fate, I'm one of the only officers who survived. See, that survivor's guilt's already popping up already.
I mean,
captain.
This whole thing of think about it in real context of he may or may not have known that what they were transporting was the fucking bomb that just blew up 100,000 people. Mm-hmm. And he just lost 800 of his sailors that were under his guiding, that's got to be some major heavy duty survivor's guilt, PTSD.
Part of me wonders if he had truly planned on going down with the ship, right? And then got
I think he
blown over
did.
the side.
Yeah. I think he planned.
I think had he died on the ship, I think a lot more people probably would have died, because I think there was probably a lot
going for
to him being there and getting them all grouped together again and being that beacon of hope that probably had a lot of those guys clinging on to survive as long as they could.
And I think that's what a lot of the survivors said for decades afterwards, trying to get him exonerated.
Yeah. Is that if
it's
it weren't for him being there?
They're why he's why they're alive still.
Yeah. So but that survivor's guilt is just brutal.
Sounds like a great thing to have in a movie. Great story.
Yeah, it would have been interesting to see
film.
how that. Yeah,
explore that.
Sure would have.
He says he'll have to tell 800 men's wives that their husbands died while the captain survived, and it's clear he wishes he would have been shark food like the rest of the crew. We see Theodore in the hospital, so I guess that was Another fun little fake out earlier with the headless corpse holding his book. The two prisoners goofily laugh as Theo explains he gave someone his book for comfort. I feel like I'm missing something. Like, we never see that. And then on top of it, it's like everything in that book is garbage. And they're treating this dude like he's Mark Twain. Actually, that's a bad example. More like Frederick Douglass. The gambler guy who stole Mike's ring gives it to Bama and reluctantly says he held onto it for 2 weeks and knew exactly whose ring it was and planned upon it. Then he says, I'm not just some everyday kind of asshole, Bama. I'm a special kind. Me too, dude, whose name I never cared to remember. Me too.
I'm a special kind.
We fade to black and watch a newsreel of the war ending with McVeigh saying the men returned home, but not all with good news. Over in definitely the south, but supposed to be Napa Valley, Bama arrives at Clara's house. And we see another sailor return to a farm, which I'm pretty sure is the exact same property that is Napa Valley, where his mom is dressed exactly like Rosie the Riveter, working on a tractor, and they slow-mo hug while the camera spins around them. Just gets dumber and dumber as we keep going on this fucking film. God.
Dude, come on. Come on.
Come on, man. Anyways, the men in Indianapolis move on with their lives and are heralded as heroes, even though they'll always have a bit of survivor's guilt from being the few lucky ones who survived. But that's true of all men who faced the harrowing reality of war. The end. Wait, no, there's still like 30 fucking minutes left in this thing, and I'm not going to break it down. I'm not doing it. We see a horribly executed day for night shot of McVeigh's house where he gets a phone call from a grieving Tom Sizemore, and suddenly McVeigh is pulled off the side of the bed into the ocean. He screams in terror while he's treated to a mumble rap of Sizemore confessing his regrets of not beating up more women in his life, allegedly. But then he wakes up to another phone call. Again, classic middle of the night fake out, nightmare phone call. He answers the
Freddy
phone.
Krueger pulls him under the water. How you doing, chum?
Oh, fuck.
I'm your boyfriend now, Charles.
Oh, man. I'm going to pat my own self on the back for that one.
That was amazing. He answers the phone, and some guy tells him he hopes he burns in hell. So he's like, Grandma, I told you to not call me so late. Oh, God.
I can't wait till we do World Trade.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Another film that just shits on the memory of those fucking folks. Like, God damn. Anyways. That's a movie that didn't need to be made. Anyways, we'll get there. We'll get there eventually. Anyways.
And it's something we actually all lived through, sort of.
Yeah, I know, which makes it even more insulting, I guess, that they fucking made that film and made it as terribly as they did. Because,
yeah.
Anyways, McVeigh's wife tells him she and their son need him, which is kind of weird as fuck thing to say to someone unless you kind of already set up that this guy's suicidal from all these phone calls or something. But, I mean, I didn't really get that.
He wakes up to a phone call. He answers the phone. Obviously, it's somebody saying something bad to him, and he hangs up and lays down. And she's like, "Your wife and kid need you." I'm like, what the fuck kind of thing to say? Like, why would you say that to him?
Yeah, it was them shoehorn. I don't know. They're like, "Oh fuck, he kills himself." Like, we got to shoehorn in the fact that he's
put in some suicide stuff here,
right?
I don't.
Otherwise, it'll come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Not the fact that he went through this horrific event where he was in charge of over 1,000 sailors and the majority of them died. Like, that wouldn't make him suicidal.
That's not good enough.
These depressing phone calls in the middle of the night from his grandma.
How you doing, chum?
Oh, fuck. Oh, man. Well, McVeigh says to his wife the men on the boat needed him too, but she reassures him he did all he could. We cut to Clara and Bama chatting about him turning down a promotion. He says he plans to move to D.C. to go to law school. Bama admits his love for her and pulls out an engagement ring before getting on one knee and asking her to marry him. It's like, I don't know. Probably ask her out on a date first? But whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
Things were
they're
different
supposed to
back
have
then.
known each other for years, right? Like,
Since they were kids,
I
but
guess.
still.
She doesn't love him.
No. At least ask her out to dinner first before
Right.
she just drop on a knee. But things, everybody was all hyped up and excited that the war ended, so it's different times. Clara says she's having Mike's baby. Wait. Are we supposed to know that?
I guess. Now we do.
Yes.
I guess. Oh, yeah. Anyways, Bama says he knows. How? I don't know. Obviously, we missed
Mike
something.
told him how he nutted in her, I guess.
Or he watched, and that's how he knows? I don't know.
Just like in the alleyway, he's just like standing off in the corner. He's got a crocodile suit on for some reason.
But Mike was like a brother to him, so he'll raise the baby as his own. He says she doesn't have to love him back or anything like that. And I guess that's how most 40s marriages work, I think. And I guess that's all good enough for her because next we see them, and they're married.
I hate it, dude. Like,
What the fuck, dude?
and we're supposed to. That's the happy ending. Like,
That's a happy ending.
you don't gotta love me or anything, but I love you, so I'll be good to you. Women don't get to say.
Your child.
I
Okay.
mean, it's either that or your
Sure.
unwed mother.
In the 40s. Not a good look.
No.
We see the general or admiral or whatever who sent the Indianapolis on the secret mission 4 hours ago, talking to McVeigh's wife, who seems to think they're making her husband a scapegoat. In the living room, the admiral informs McVeigh that they are making him into a scapegoat and that there will be a trial. He also informs McVeigh that another ship was sunk just days before, so they knew that there was a good chance that there was a Japanese sub in the area. Point being, they should have had an escort, sonar, etc., but were set up to fail, and all the men who died did so unnecessarily. At DC, we see the men in Indianapolis who didn't take jobs as boat captains in Martha Vineyards, like Quint from Jaws, celebrating being alive together and to wish their captain luck in this bullshit trial that's about to go down that we unfortunately have to sit through.
Did you see the little bit where somebody like called somebody Quint on one of the boats, like when they were all like in the life rafts, like
no.
"Here, Quint" or something like that?
Oh
I
my
don't know.
God.
That's hilarious. No,
They did not.
They
Did
did.
they really?
Yeah.
I blacked out most of those
Oh
scenes.
my God.
There's somebody named Quint in the boats. Yeah.
Incredible. Anyways, Gambler Boy ogles Clara, and he says he recognizes the ring she has on a chain around her neck, which is also like a really weird thing to say to someone. He judges Bama for marrying his buddy's pregnant girlfriend and says Bama is a better man than him, which it's not really hard to be a better man than that dude. He's kind of a piece of shit.
The guy points out.
Just points at her tits.
Immediately.
Yeah.
I recognize that ring on your tits.
Couldn't help but notice as I was staring at your tits at that ring that I stole. Saw that Mike had.
I had that up my ass
found
while I was in the
found it
ocean.
for him. At the trial, they accuse McVeigh of hazarding the ship by failing to zigzag as an evasive maneuver and not abandoning the ship in a timely manner. We see various witnesses, such as Bama, who says he didn't get the order to abandon ship directly from McVeigh. But, like, is he supposed to tell each man every time? Could he just? I'm surprised they didn't do that though in this film, because it'd be like, sailor, abandon ship. Hey, you over there, abandon ship. Young man in the head, abandon ship. Jesus is gonna take forever.
That's
Fucking
okay. We got
another-
45 minutes to add to this thing.
Hey,
Yeah,
you
no.
two guys locked in the cell. Abandoned ship.
Abandon ship. Jesus fucking Christ.
Followed
I
by the
don't- yeah.
plane landing in real time right after that. Fucking A.
These fuckers. Anyways, McVeigh scolds his lawyer for not objecting, since the way McVeigh ordered abandoning ship was military protocol. McVeigh takes the stand, and we literally recap the entire Titans thing again, complete with flashbacks. Like, there's no point in the editing process where like, damn, this movie's really long. Do we really need to, like, do you think we should cut some of this unnecessary stuff and focus on the meat of the story? Nope. They just recap it. McVeigh recaps the entire beginning of the second act, re-showing us how the ship sank and is asked how he personally abandoned ship. We see that crappy jump cut of him being blown off the ship again and him being hit on the shoulder by a shark. Finding a dead sailor in the water, some shots of the writers workshopping the script, etc. We cut back to the courtroom where we see the lawyer interrogating McVeigh on the verge of tears from hearing what happened, and cut to the people listening in the courtroom sobbing, which feels really forced. Really forced. The prosecution calls the commander of the Japanese sub to take the stand, which shocks everyone in the courtroom, including McVeigh. Quick fact. Commander Hashimoto's testimony at Captain McVeigh's court-martial was not a surprise to the press or the JAG. According to the discovery process, the prosecutor had to disclose his witness list to the defense. So Hashimoto was disposed by the prosecution and defense in pretrial. Huh?
Deposed.
What did I say?
Disposed. Slight difference.
Oh, yeah. Hashimoto was deposed by the prosecution and defense in pretrial. The press had published that Hashimoto would be testifying at the court-martial, and the public was aware. The day of the testimony, Hashimoto's picture appeared on the front pages of newspapers. Hashimoto also testified through a Navy interpreter. As a citizen and officer of Japan, he took the United States oath and the Japanese civil oath, and he could have been prosecuted for perjury in both jurisdictions. Damn.
So point is, they knew.
Yeah, they knew. Which I thought was weird too when they're like, yeah, I thought it was weird when he walks in and everyone was like, I'm like, yeah, at least the defense would have to know. Yeah, the defense would have to know that they're calling him as a witness because they get their opportunity to question him as well.
Imagine though, like, I mean, that's a testament to him, like coming all the way from Japan to testify on behalf of the captain of the ship that you sank. Like, that's pretty huge.
I thought that it was like he had no choice. Like they made him do it.
They might have,
because they wanted him to be like, oh yeah, if you'd been zigzagging, I would have hit him, or I wouldn't have hit him, or whatever.
The lawyer says he must tell the truth before God, but since he's a godless heathen, he can't swear on the Bible, to which the captain in English says he's a Shintoist, so he believes the souls live on after death, and confirms that he knows the difference between truth and lies. Jesus, movie, we get it, okay? Like, oh, then we get a recap of the beginning of the second act from the sub-captain's point of view. Good God, they just dragging this on. He explains that he didn't fire the Quintans because he didn't want to be responsible for orphaning a man's child and decided to send standard torpedoes instead. The lawyer asks if the Indianapolis had been zigzagging, would it have made a difference? And the sub-captain says it wouldn't, since they were too close and they had no chance to escape. The captain then bows to McVeigh, since they're all men of courage who were just doing their duty or whatever the hell we're supposed to get from this. McVeigh is told he's not guilty of failing to abandon ship in a timely manner, but he's devastated since they only announced the not guilty verdicts, so that means he's guilty of all other charges. Quick fact. Shortly after the court-martial, Fleet Admiral Ernest King remitted McVeigh's sentence and restored him to active duty. He was later promoted to Rear Admiral and retired from the Navy in 1949.
That would also been something to point out.
This is all pointless. You just drag
goddamn railroaded kangaroo court just to for the press, and then they were like, oh, well, you're fine.
Outside, McVeigh confronts the Japanese sub-captain who says this would never happen in Japan and that McVeigh is a hero. McVeigh asks if there was anything he could have done to save his ship, and the sub-captain says there was nothing he could have done, and it was his duty to kill him. The sub-captain then says, as a man, he has regret. McVeigh says he had a good idea that they were carrying a bomb that would kill thousands, so he did his duty too, but as a man, he finds no honor in it. The sub-captain wonders what could have been different if he had stopped McVeigh before he delivered the bomb, and McVeigh tears up. The sub-captain wonders if they'll ever be able to forgive themselves, and they tearfully salute each other as Cage gives him a quick, I think I just shit my pants, wide-eyed stare. We cut to the men in Indianapolis putting up photos of their fallen friends, and we hear various voiceovers from the men saying that we only win wars when there are no more wars, and that every year they get together to honor their friends on Veterans Day to remind everyone the cost of freedom. Yada, yada, yada. After Luis dies, McVeigh shoots himself in the head. Quick fact. Captain, later Rear Admiral McVeigh, ended his life in his front yard, not inside his home. Captain McVeigh's suicide was in 1968, but in the movie, it seems like it happened right after the court-martial in 1945.
Yeah, they don't really give you... I mean, they don't show him, and they put, like, gray hair on it, so it's like... trying to give you a sense that it happened at some point later, but they don't exactly say when.
They make it seem like it happened immediately after.
Because they're like, my wife died, now I'm killing myself. Like, yeah. Okay. I guess you assume his wife died years later, and then he's ending it, but... Yeah. They could have done that a little bit better.
Yeah, they could have shown the passage of 23 years in a different way of like not having him look exactly the fucking same.
We fade to black and see black and white photos of the actual crew members, including the sub-captain who ended up becoming a Shinto priest who spent his life trying to get McVeigh exonerated, which apparently worked because 5 days after his death, Clinton cleared him of all charges.
After
it was actually apparently because of a sixth grader who started like digging up the story and was like interviewing survivors from the Indianapolis, and was like, all the survivors were like, hey, by the way, justice has never been righted, basically. And so the kid started like talking to news, getting news coverage about it, like national news coverage. And that's what jumped the story back up and got Congress to actually exonerate him.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Six-year-old or sixth grader?
Sixth grader. Who was doing a report. Who was like interviewing Indianapolis survivors.
Dang.
6-year-old.
A 6-year-old. That'd be even more impressive.
How come you got eaten by sharks?
We also find out that the chaplain who swam to everybody's bodies to give last rites, despite risking being eaten by sharks, was posthumously denied the Navy Cross, which I'm guessing was added to raise awareness so he can finally get one. Which I'm not sure where we stand on that today.
Yeah. I didn't look it up because I didn't want to think about this movie ever again. Guessing he hasn't gotten it. I don't know.
Probably. I don't
know. Then the movie turns into a Band of Brothers episode, and we see interviews with surviving crew members who recount how horrifying the experience was. Had to pad out the runtime just a little bit longer, I guess. Then we see actual footage from the rescue. Then some home movies. Then we watch a slideshow of McVeigh's wedding. Then we watch Bama and Clara bang while a picture of Mike, who's dressed in a crocodile outfit for some reason, watches on, etc., etc. Then finally, the fucking credits start over footage of the men in their life rafts, and thus concludes one of the most harrowing things to ever come out of World War II, the film U.S.S. Indianapolis, Men of Courage. The end. God damn.
Fucking A. If you couldn't tell by our breakdown, we didn't exactly love this film. And honestly, it's an absolute shame. The story of the Indianapolis is one of the most fascinating, tragic, and terrifying stories to come out of World War II, and deserves much better than what this clunky mess delivered. That's why I encourage all of you to read the true story, devoid of made-up characters, artificial love triangles, and needlessly annoying executive officers in the book In Harm's Way, The Sinking of the USS Indianapolis and the Story of Its Survivors, available over on bookoutlet.com. Book Outlet adds hundreds of new books daily, and you can get up to 90% off original list price on brand new books by scanning the QR code on your screen or by clicking the link in the description below. And if you need to bone up on sharks or how to actually write a decent movie, you'll receive free shipping when you spend over $35.
We have a couple of questions before we move on.
All right. A couple of questions. I didn't like at a certain point, I was just like, why are we asking any questions during this fucking movie? But why was the guy standing in the doorway listening to the captain write a letter aloud to his wife?
Because that's how the writers think naval ships work.
Yeah, I guess.
He has to have a witness every time he writes a letter, I guess. I don't know.
Can I get a
He
witness?
hands it off, right? I'm guessing that's the
He
guy
hands
that's
it
supposed
off.
to go
Yeah,
take it.
he's going to send it out. But
Do a telegraph with it or whatever. Or mail it.
I thought they were going for like he's reciting the letter aloud to this guy and he's writing it down. But
Yeah.
no, he just takes the letter and leaves.
Yeah. I thought it was going to be that too. He's dictating the letter to him.
I mean, it's just supposed to be a parallel with the Japanese sub commander because he had people outside his door listening to him talk to himself. But that, I don't know.
Not conveyed very well.
No. Why in the fuck is that random jaw from a shark on the dock?
Foreshadowing, duh, dude. Subtle foreshadowing, too.
Why? Why was that there? I mean, it's okay. So if we're tracking that they're taking the bomb to the Enola Gay, and this is them loading it up onto the ship, onto the plane, which is totally not what happened. Why would there be a jaw from a shark just randomly on the hangar deck or whatever? Like, why?
Because it's cool. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, because it's cool.
God damn it. How did Mick Horder lose his foot in a way that allowed him to just hang on to it and hold it?
Yeah, that was one of mine, too.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Was it just like holding on by a string and he just like cut it off himself and then just was like,
Maybe.
I'm going to keep this as a keepsake.
I guess maybe that's what we're supposed to take away from that.
Put this in my trophy room.
Could use it for shark bait. To keep the sharks
Beat
away.
my wife later.
God. Ew, bitch, you fucking stupid.
I didn't survive at sea for all the time for me to come home to a burnt roast.
My baby boy is hooked on crack just like I was. What was with Standish trying to make it to an island or whatever? Was he just hallucinating? I'm guessing.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, when I saw it, I thought it was just them trying to steal the remaining supplies away and get away from the people. But then after watching like accounts of it saying that they hallucinated islands and did all kinds of horrible shit, like it was probably just that.
Yeah, that's what that's how I understood it. Is he was hallucinating and he genuinely thought there was an island over there.
Yeah. It's the only thing that makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
An island has been spotted.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I thought it was just an excuse to take the remaining supplies and divide them among 3 people instead of whatever he left with.
They just like went over like a mile and just ate all the
Yeah, they
supplies.
battled a mile out, mile back. Mm-hmm. Never mind, there's no island over there.
No island,
These
there's
sharks
sharks.
got ate by
Just 4
sharks.
sharks.
Yeah, just more sharks. I mean, there's an island of sharks, but that's about it.
Do you think Bama tossed Mike's corpse into the ocean? And why didn't we get that scene? That would have been great.
I think
You're
she
starting to
kept him
stink,
in
buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Again,
he could have.
would have been a better story.
I think Mike
I think
was
they would have.
laying on top of him. I think you would have to just to protect yourself. From
Strip
the
them and
seas.
100%.
throw it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
There
like
was something.
when they pushed McWhorter over, it's like
Yeah.
burial at sea. That's honorable for
Yeah.
Navy, you know.
Plus, it gives the shark something to eat instead of
Yeah, instead of him. Yeah. And then I guess this is sort of answered. This is fairly standard in warfare, but like, why would they bomb the oil slick? I mean, I guess
It's just that's the subs leak oil, and then when they find oil slicks, they know there's a sub nearby, I guess. And
but like, what are the chances that they would actually hit anything with that?
Yeah, and I don't know. I guess this is part of my ignorance to how subs work. Would an operating sub be leaking oil?
yeah, I don't know.
I would assume that if there's an oil slick above the water from a submarine, that fucking sub is probably toast. Because let me tell you, any little thing that happens down there, just not looking good for your chances of survival. I think we all know what happens to submarines under massive amounts of pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll move on. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all we got to say.
Other questions?
We had the one, but it was like, why did Garrison go blind?
Yeah,
Like,
I think that's realistic because imagine being stuck out there with no way to protect your eyes.
Yeah.
I would imagine more people did go Wime, but because he was one of the fake characters that they had to have us follow,
they just put it in there. Yeah,
they put it in there to show that folks, ended up losing.
Again, they could have focused a lot more on the survival story. There was a lot of horrible shit that they glossed over.
Much. Yeah,
I
They were stuck in, they were dying of thirst. They were in the blistering sun all day and then freezing temperatures at night. And I was thinking, all of their life jackets were getting waterlogged, so they had to take them off and stick them on rafts and let them dry out so that they could, not be so waterlogged, and then cycle them through and stuff. They were doing a whole bunch of stuff to survive. Yeah, that they just never show in the movie.
None of that. They showed none of that. Focusing
on the resourcefulness of I'm sure that they had tactics to make water using one of those little sun evaporation style kits. Maybe, maybe they did that out there. There had to have been a way that
guys
they drank
seawater and went insane and stuff, and they talk about that, but they don't show it. They could have shown a lot more of this stuff.
It feels like they tried to water this down, no pun intended, for a general audience or for kids in a way, maybe because of the sixth grader.
I think, it's just the subject matter is just so
it's horrifying.
Heavy. But then it's why bother? Why bother trying to make it if you're going to sanitize it like this? That's my Coppola question. Why bother?
Why bother? Really, why bother making this film? You didn't stick to any historical accuracy. You created these paper thin characters who I never felt sympathetic for because there was no depth to them.
Yeah,
everything was forced.
They're just caricatures of characters we've seen in other movies, and not even the characters who were actually there. There's so many interesting stories that actually happened, and somehow you just were nah, none of those are good enough. Let's just make up some shit.
We Were Soldiers, and then maybe take influence from that, or even Black Hawk Down. You actually develop these characters throughout the tragic events instead of creating these fake characters and bullshit plot lines. Who gives a fuck about Bama and Claire, and who gives a fuck about some guy who's massively in debt to all the sailors? Who cares about that shit?
Or again, to use something they took influence from, Band of Brothers. Those were all based on real people, and it was the stories you got of the horrors of war. You could do it.
It's time for the trackers.
Guess that leads us over to the Cage curse tracker, which I'm guessing was very light.
Nothing. He doesn't curse at all.
I was gonna say, I don't think he cursed
spend time on it. He doesn't. He's a good boy.
He had very little dialogue, really, if you consider the 7 hours this film.
Yeah, he's like a side character for some reason, even though he should have been the main character that the story focused on. But for whatever reason, he wasn't. So 0 curses. So our total is still. Let me open it up here. We are still sitting at 716 total curses.
Thanks.
So this is another one of the movies that doesn't have anything in it, despite the subject matter.
Yeah, I kind of figured because anytime he plays these kind of hero type characters, he has a tendency not to curse, or maybe that was his way of paying respect to the actual Charles McVay.
That's what I think. Yeah, I think his whole performance in general was trying to be very respectful of the actual human being that he's playing.
Yeah.
Oops. So, which have we seen that before? Has he played a real person in any other movies we've watched?
Oh God,
Castor Troy.
I don't think he's been in until we get maybe Wind Talkers, any other historical movies that of the ones that we've watched. I guess
that's true. Yeah. I'm trying
just
to
looking
think,
over the list. I don't think he's played.
Lord of War, sort of.
Oh yeah.
Charlie Kaufman.
Although he's a dramatized version of the guy in Lord of War, but
he's a combination of a bunch of different arms dealers in Lord of War.
He played Nick Cage at one point.
That's true. He did play Nick Cage.
He played Acid Yellow.
I don't know if the guy in Time to Kill was a real soldier, but he maybe played a real Italian.
Yeah. I don't think so.
That fucking movie.
All right. Runtime. This is, unfortunately, the fourth longest movie we have ever talked about. The other movies on that list are Face Off, The Rock, and National Treasure. And then you have this fucking movie that just did not need to be even close to this. You could have trimmed 40 minutes out of this movie easily.
Yeah.
It is way too goddamn long. Like it's like Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, where it's like it's just like here's an ending, here's another ending, here's another ending, here's another ending. I'm like, fucking just end the fucking. It went faded to black, and then people came back on the screen. And you're like, what the fuck is going on? Just end the movie. We didn't need Band of Brothers to start.
I know.
It's over. God damn it. Nudity? None. Okay. Just move on from that.
There was the burlesque scene, but I think she was wearing pasties.
She was wearing pasties.
Yeah.
I paused it.
To examine real quick.
To examine,
for the
educational purposes. State and country tracker, we went to California. So we were in San Francisco. Then we went to Washington, D.C. Then we went to the Philippines and Guam. So grand total, we're still at 25 states, which I feel like we've been sitting there for a while. But then we added 2 countries with the Philippines and Guam. So we are up to 22 total countries now.
Is Guam a country?
Yeah.
Like, I thought it's part of the United States.
It is part of the United States, but it's a territory. I mean, you would say Puerto Rico's a country, even though it's a territory.
Would we, though?
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know. I don't know.
I don't think. I think it's technically its own country. Yeah, but it's just a territory of the United States.
Not a very great country.
Guam or
no, Puerto Rico. Oh, Guam. No, I support Guam or Guam being its own country.
You don't support Puerto Rico being a country?
No.
Tell us more, Vince.
Over here.
Puerto Ricans, man.
All right.
Canceled.
Last show ever.
I was looking up Guam if it's country. It's not. It's a territory of the United States.
So it's not it's not its own country at all?
Apparently not.
How does that even work? It's like,
I don't know, imperialism. It is a organized, unincorporated territory of the United States in Micronesia subregion of the Western Pacific Ocean.
So can I not count that as a country then? I guess not, because I counted,
France as
France, but it was like that island of whatever. I forget what that one was.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
All right, I guess we're at 21 countries. Just show that one.
I just
being
wanted to call it out
off.
because somebody's probably going to complain about it.
True, gotcha. Budget versus gross. $40 million budget made $1,663,785. Very specific, not rounded up number. I did round it up to 1.7 though. But anyways, that brings our grand total up to $1.367.5 billion budget with a $2.947 billion gross. Major studio loss on this one.
Yeah.
I
hope it just tanked everybody who was behind the scenes' career so that they never make anything ever again.
Mm-hmm. That'd be the most fitting tribute.
Yeah. This made $1.7 million. So on our highest grossing films, it is sandwiched between Joe, which made 2.4, and Mandy, which made 1.4. Mandy versus U.S.S. Indianapolis. One cost $3 million. The other one cost $40 million.
Hollywood is an interesting place, man.
I mean, Grand Isle made $5,000, so it did do better than Grand Isle.
This is about the system that doesn't care.
It's the same character before he killed himself.
Yeah.
It really does kind of feel like. I mean, he just has like that generic military guy that he does.
He plays that character a lot for some reason.
Mm-hmm. You're eating your biscottis.
Watching porn. Rating tracker. This is our 26th R-rated film. Far and away the most out of all of the different ratings that we've had. Which leads us over to the Cage Kill Tracker.
All right, this is where I need your guys' input.
Killed 800 people.
Yeah, officially.
I mean, if you want to count all the people on his ship, yeah, that's like
The
a
government
lot.
did, apparently.
The government
so. Jesus Christ. I don't think we should count it.
No.
No.
Yeah.
No. So,
Fuck.
I
Just
guess
imagining
suicide counts as a kill. So
Sorta.
one kill, one death. What do you guys think?
Just
Do we
count as a death.
Just count as a death. Okay. I mean, technically,
That's my
he
input.
did kill somebody.
He
It just happened to
did.
be himself,
Killed himself. Yeah.
and maybe his wife, allegedly.
Jesus.
Just
So-
for the record, no, he did not kill his wife. No.
I'm talking about Nick Cage, not
okay.
Rear Admiral
Killed
McKay.
Patricia Arquette.
McVeigh. Yeah. Okay, so we're not going to count him killing himself as a kill, which I think is the only respectful thing to do is not count it. We're still sitting at 201 for kills, and I feel like this is the first death we've had in a while. So one death in the film, which brings us up to 14. 14 out of all the films we've seen. So
I think the old
This is
way was the
crazy.
last death. Or?
I think the old way was the last.
No,
time he died.
Arsenal. No, I don't know. He's died a few
It
times.
would have been Arsenal, right? I don't know. Who knows? Who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess adaptation. Because
Yes.
Oh
adaptation,
yeah, adaptation. That's right.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Well, this was a real pile of shit. Let's rank this film on the Cageometer.
All right, let's wrap this goddamn thing up because we are going just as long as the fucking movie itself. I'm curious what this final number is going to be, but we'll start off with Vince arbitrarily forever. Where do you rate USS Indianapolis, Men of Courage, of Honor, of Spirit of Vengeance, of New Orleans from 2016?
Porter
where
call.
where does it rate on your Cageometer?
Oh, Jesus Christ. This is a terrible movie that I think dishonored all the folks that lost their lives in that event and the men that survived. I feel like giving it a 1 would be too harsh because I feel like that would then kind of shit on the people that did genuinely try to make this into something watchable. So I'll give it a 2 out of respect to everybody. It's just an awful movie. We talked about it enough. It's just terrible. And the Cage, I'll give Cage I don't know. I feel like 5's not fair. I don't know. The way I rate things, like 5 is like middle of the road. So I'll give him a 5 because that's how I rate 5. His performance wasn't terrible. It wasn't great. Like, I think he did. I do appreciate the fact that he kept things like pretty calm. And I, like you guys said, it's probably out of respect to the actual Rear Admiral. But you really could have put anybody in his. You could have cast anybody in his role. He didn't add or detract from it for me, so I'll give him a 5. I
would say like there's basically zero cagey moments in this whole thing.
Yeah.
The only cagey moments I count are the ones where he's like basically on the verge of death. So
death.
he's
Right.
like talking
I felt
weird,
like-
but
yeah.
it's like that's not really a cagey moment. But at the
Right.
same time, we got to have some.
Yeah, the Cage's moment to me was when they brought the pie in and he was like asking about how do you make this pie. That was cagey to me, but that was it.
in this pie. Yeah.
Everything else, I felt like he did a really good job at just being very flat. And normally you critique somebody for that, but out of
Yes.
respect to an actual person, I'm glad he didn't go over the top and make this into a super cagey performance. So I'll give him a 5. 2 for the movie. Disrespectful, very disrespectful in my opinion to the real event and the people that went through it. And then a 5 for Cage. It's okay. He was okay in this film.
Yeah. All right, Nigel, where do you rate USS Indianapolis on your Cageometer?
Yeah, this one, this movie makes me really mad for all the reasons we've talked about. It's like, I feel like the intent was there to make a good movie. We see this a lot. I don't think a lot of times people intend to make a bad movie, but it just sort of shakes out that way. But like we've said it. Why would you write this as the story for this actual tragedy? Like this story that has enough human drama and loss and courage and all the stuff that's there to make a good story that already exists because it happened in real life and I'm sure it's been written about in tons of books. Why would you dramatize it this way? It's And setting aside the story, the production of the film the CG's terrible. The editing is awful. The music is not that is overbearing and shitty and melodramatic. And a lot of the shots just look. We said they look fake. It's like this movie, the story deserves a much better film than what we got. And again, all the historical inaccuracies. You couldn't just bother to try and make things accurate. It's not like that would detract from the story at all.
Yep.
I mean, they had to dramatize some of it because apparently, officially, there is no reason why those distress calls were ignored. They on the record, like they talk about it in the movie, it's because it was on a secret mission. We had to disavow knowledge of the ship. Nobody could. But in actuality, like the ship was not reported missing because they had this protocol of like the ship's so large that if it doesn't show up where it's supposed to be, it'll be noticed, and that was the protocol at the time. And that's why it took them they didn't report it because they're like, all's well that ends well. You know, nobody's reported the ship missing, so it can't be missing. Is basically the rules, which changed after this accident happened, or not accident, whatever. Changed after this incident, and they didn't mention that at all. That was something I learned just watching elsewhere. It was like, it's just a massive fuck up from the government perspective. And I think they were trying to spin it with the atomic bomb angle, and I have no idea if that's true or not. It feels like they could have been more critical, if that's possible, of this actual story and what actually happened and why this many people died from this people dropping and then railroading McVeigh out of it. But anyway, that's just me being so pissed off that this story deserves a better telling than what we got, and I give it a 3 because there are certain aspects of it. I feel like it's trying to be respectful, but it just doesn't end up that way in it. And I don't want to harp too much on the story because it's based on the real story. Just the execution of it is really poor. And so, it's one of the worst movies we watched. But I feel like a 3 is my solid thing because there were good scenes in it. I feel like there was legitimately good moments, and there were aspects of a good film that came like his McVeigh's conversation with the Japanese commander at the end. I thought was very well acted and kind of got across the thesis of what the movie was going for, which is like they were both just men trying to do their duty. They were good men in the most horrible situations you can imagine, and one of them got dealt a really shitty hand by his own government and stuff. And they just. Yeah. Anyway, I don't want to talk about the movie anymore. It's not good. Cage performance.
I feel the best review of this. I don't want to talk about this movie anymore.
I don't. I can just talk about it all day about how it's disrespectful and shitty. But whatever. Move on. Feel the same with Vince on Cage's performance. I give him a 5 because it's the same. It's a middle of the road, and I think that was due in part to him just trying to respect the actual character. I don't know if McVeigh was like that in real life, if his performance is anything true to life, or if anybody even knew that. So maybe that's why they just sort of played it safe down the road, just trying to not be over the top or underperforming or whatever. But I think he did that just fine. But like you said, anybody could have played the character and it would have been the same. They got Cage for star power, but I don't think it was like Cage needed to be this guy and needed to play this character in a way that could give him Oscars or whatever. I think it was just he took a job, did what he could to portray the guy in a respectful manner, and that was it. So, 5 for me.
He actually said that he's been wanting to do a movie in the ocean for a long time because of Captain Nemo. And he was like looking for something specific because he was supposed to do something with Ron Howard. There was a movie that he was supposed to do with Ron Howard, and then that fell through. And then there was another movie that was supposed to be set on the ocean that fell through. And then he was like, I really want to do something on the ocean. And somebody handed him this script. And he's like, oh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
On my Cageometer, I'm not going to harp on this very much. I gave it a 3 out of 10 as well because in a world where Arsenal gets a 2, I don't know. You can't give this movie a worse number than that. Some of it was executed well. I feel like I see what they were trying to go for, but it just fell so flat. And like Nigel said, I'm just more angry that we got this instead of the real story. Like, you spent $40 million telling a fake version of one of the most interesting stories that you could have adapted to film. Like, this is a horrifying, terrible experience that these men went through, and this is what you came up with, is a faux story about an admiral's kid who stole all the rations, and this weird racial parable that, I get, like, racism was a thing, obviously, yes, but do we need to focus on it in the limited screen time that we have to tell the story of these men who died horribly? Like, I don't know. And then the love triangle with the baby and all that stuff, it was just weird, like, choices, and the author kid, and barely spent any time with McVeigh. A lot of this stuff, like, it's just so many things that are just kind of like clunky and not unnecessary and strange choices. Like you said, I guess maybe they were going for a Titanic or a Pearl Harbor type story where we kind of add a fake drama to the story that is real, therefore telling the story through our made up story. But it just feels so disrespectful to do that to this story in particular. And like, well, the stuff that Nigel has said about like what he researched and saw behind the scenes of like what actually really happened is so much more interesting than what they came up with for this movie. It just makes me unnecessarily mad. Like, I just feel angry that this is what we got. So hopefully at some point they actually tell the real story, and somebody who is an actual filmmaker or an actual writer puts something together that's better and more respectful to the honor of, you know, these men who went through about the most horrifying ordeal you could possibly ever go through. As far as Cage, same thing. I just middle of the road 5. Didn't really need to be Cage. Could have been anybody. I felt like he did it because he wanted to do Finding Nemo and the
Finding Nemo,
whatever, Captain Nemo, whatever, 10,000 Leagues Under the Sea, whatever. I don't really. This movie's bad. It's just so bad. I feel like our rating is higher than it deserves, but at the same time, it's like we've seen some other movies that are really fucking bad. This movie has elements that are good, but for the most part, they kind of fail in the execution of almost everything. So yeah. Anyways, yeah, it's not a good movie. I don't recommend it. And even if you want to know the story of the USS Indianapolis, like, just go read the Wikipedia page.
Or go watch a video. There's tons of YouTube videos.
Watch a documentary.
10, 15 minutes long, and you can get a much better scope of the human cost of what happened out of that than this movie.
This movie sucks so bad. I hate this movie so much. I hate it.
Yeah, it's not good.
Here it is, the moment you've all been waiting for. These are the cagiest moments of the film.
In a few days, it's my birthday. My best gift would be just to see you again, my dear Louise. I try to find little things to give them hope. But even that is in short supply.
House specialty. He doesn't see us. Sees the oil. Go! Go! Go, jump! Jump! Thank you for landing.
What do you put in this delicious pie, Theodore?
I'm afraid that's classified information, sir.
Set it down.
That's it for this episode of One Cage at a Time. As always, be sure to drop us an email at onecagepodcast@gmail.com to let us know if we missed anything, or hit us up with suggestions to improve the show, comments, compliments, or simply to gush about the legend that is Nicolas Cage, kind of. On our next episode, we'll be celebrating our 50th Nicolas Cage performance, which is crazy. We've already done 50 episodes of this show. Anyways, we're going to be celebrating in style by watching a movie that we've all had a collective morbid fascination to watch, Never on Tuesday. Nick appears in all of like 20 seconds of this direct-to-VHS crap fest, but boy, is it memorable. Holy shit, is it memorable. This movie about a couple horny dudes picking up a lesbian and then breaking down in the middle of the desert somehow features uncredited cameos by Nicolas Cage, obviously, but also Cary Elwes, Emilio Estevez, Charlie Sheen, Judd Nelson, and Gilbert Gottfried. Like, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah.
And I have not watched it yet. I'm saving it because I really want to have a honest reaction to the whole film as we talk about it on our 50th episode. But I'm assuming everybody else did something weird as fuck, just like Nick did.
I hope.
It's like a variety show of a movie, I guess. I don't know. Cage himself recommended at least watching his scene in an AMA, so it's got his stamp of approval. I think he said don't watch the whole movie, just watch his scene.
I think I read that, yeah. He was like, nah, you can skip it, but is anybody hurt? Anyways, make sure to check it out on YouTube, because I think that's the only place you can get it. Or get yourself a copy of the VHS on eBay like I did. I found a copy because I feel like I've been trying to like get a physical copy of everything that we do. I can't obviously get Best of Times or Dark. But I did get myself a copy. I think it was put out on DVD at some point.
Really?
I don't know why, but it did come out on VHS, and I think it was like intended to just be, a movie that people mistake for something better in the rental places, and they're just like, oh, cool. Because like none of the stars are actually credited; they're all like kind of buried. So I don't know. Anyways, head over to eBay, get yourself a VHS copy. Until then, we'll say goodbye the way we do each and every episode with our Nicolas Cage quote of the film.
I had a good idea of what we were carrying. I too did my duty. But as a man, I find no honor in it.
Thanks for listening to One Cage at a Time. Visit us online at onecageatatime.com or follow us on the social media platform of your choice for more Nicolas Cage goodness. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and if you really like the show, become a member of our Patreon where you can download unedited and ad-free episodes as well as listen to our follow-up show, Back Into the Cage, where we re-examine each movie to discuss what we missed the first time around, answer listener questions, and wax poetic about the man, the myth, the legend that is Nicolas Cage.